cried the sparrow.
You're listening to the Sailing into Oblivion podcast, where we sit down with everyday people who do extraordinary things. I'm your host, Jerome Rand.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Sailing into Oblivion podcast. So, today, Rutherford files continue. I found myself doing a coaching session. Shout out to Scott. You did a fantastic job, my friend. Can't wait to get back out there on the ocean blue this fall. But Matt was down prepping his boat, the Marie Tharp, for going up to Greenland and doing all the summer science this year. So I drove about an hour south, met up with him, and we chatted and had a great time just mixing up. We talk about anything and everything under the sun. Now, I will, quick caveat, obviously, the language gets a bit salty. Some of the subjects get a bit testy, I suppose. But it's all in good fun. So ye be warned, if the kids are in the car, you might want to save this episode for later. I do want to do a plug for him, though. Support our fellow sailor there. They have bunks available. I'm going to put a link in the description for his website, but they're selling a few more slots for the different legs going to and from Greenland. If you want to get some good North Atlantic experience with not only a very unique vessel, but a very seaworthy and safe vessel, also with a super cool captain. He'll make you cowboy coffee. You'll be picking grounds out of your teeth for weeks. It's wonderful. It's a unique experience that it's not just your everyday average, like, oh, we're going to go and sail on a boat, you know, in this destination. This is kind of something pretty special. This is different. And guarantee you're going to have an exceptional time. So definitely want to check that out. If you're interested, it is well worth it. And it's far more affordable than any of these other yahoos that are out there. So definitely worth checking out. If you want to help support this podcast, check out the links also in the description. We got everything from the wonderful Patreon family to one-time donations, all that sort of stuff, all the merch. I did drop the Murph Electrics shirt, so the Oracle has spoken. Got a few of those. Can't wait to get up to Michigan and receive them. Other than that, coaching, consulting, speaking, all that stuff, sailingintoOblivion.com. Yeah, that's it. All right. Enjoy the show. Thanks for listening. Bye. Boom, and we're live.
Yeah.
Welcome back. We've opened the case. Welcome to the Rutherford Files.
Oh, yeah. There we are. Back again.
Good to see you, Skip.
Yeah. It's going.
Oh, don't be bashful now,
I'm sorry,
sir.
Man. I'm like so exhausted at this point that I'm like, I'm having it. Even my piss and vinegar is exhausted.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, so when's your dead? Do you have like a straight up, this is the day we're departing? Because you got people coming in and going and all that stuff.
Yeah,
right?
We're selling berths going up there and back down again as a way to fund the expedition, because the funding this year is essentially garbage.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's just not a lot of funding for science, generally speaking, right now. It's going to get worse because the government turned off the spigot to a lot of various things, and I'm sure. I would love to see, and I don't know what exactly the end product would be, but I'd love to see like an audit of the U.S. government, like an actual full audit, to see like how much money really is being wasted.
In and out, right,
because I'm sure that government waste is something that everybody, regardless of the political party, can understand and agree with. And we really have no idea what that number actually is. So it'd be cool if that comes out. But obviously they're chopping a lot of different things, and I think if it was done by the other administration, they would chop things that different things that people would also dislike, because they would have their own agenda. Everybody has an agenda.
Both.
Right.
You're always going to have, people cheering it on, other people hooing it on and all that.
And since both parties have an agenda, they're going to cut to their agenda.
Yeah.
And science or climate science is not very high on this particular agenda. So a lot of that funding's gotten cut and being cut. Anyways, long and short is it's just funding sucks this year. So we're going to fund Maybe everything's selling bursts. I don't know. I mean, we're waiting to hear back. May 9th, we'll find out about a small grant, which will be a big deal for us because we don't have anything coming in.
Yeah.
It creates a hard deadline.
So what is the deadline?
The 15th.
Whoa.
So like a couple of weeks, essentially.
Yeah, dude, that's going to creep right up.
Oh, yeah. We're pretty much, I mean, I think we could go in a couple of days if we had to.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is. I mean, there's benefits of having hard deadlines too, because people, generally can procrastinate and kick the can down the road. Yeah, but when it's like, and this hard deadline has been there for a while now. So, I came back into the States in mid-March, and then it was just like go time from the minute the plane hit the tarmac. I'm like trying to figure shit. Actually, the last 2 weeks I was over in Manila. At least the last 2 weeks, I had stopped working on everything but the expedition. So I was already ordering parts and research and stuff. So when I showed up, parts were already here waiting for me.
Oh, nice.
So I already had the ball moving before I got here.
Getting all ducks
I don't have
in
a choice,
row.
man.
Are you writing these lists down now?
No, I don't write lists.
Come on, man.
Yeah,
it's so helpful.
I do actually write lists once in a while.
Right.
I did. There's a list on the boat. It's mostly checked off.
Good man.
I know. I'm slowly changing. And then I wonder why I'm so stubborn. I'm like, why were you so stubborn about that for so long?
The list is so good. That was actually that's usually one of the last things that I talk about. When I sit down with people, is I'm like, all right, now here's the thing. When you're going on a passage, or if you're going to leave the boat for a month or two on the dock, have that hard checklist that you can look at, and you can go around and check each and every one off. And that way, you get the peace of mind. You're like, okay, I know we got everything. I closed this, closed that.
Yeah, there's quite a few things that could be done that would make things better at sea. That would be one of them. It'd also be great to have like a 3-ring binder with like laminated pages that shows each compartment and what's in there.
All the diagrams, all that stuff.
And by sections of safety and tools.
But that gets a little...
I just don't...
The one thing I don't like about that stuff is then all of a sudden you're almost beholden to it. And it's like, well, I want to change where this is, but I don't want to have to go and change the 3-ring binder that I made.
That's true.
But that's where...
That's true.
That's where people like Kaz come in. Kaz would be good at that.
I got a friend, Laz, who's rebuilding this Tazwell 43 like completely.
Yeah.
And he's built an app for it on his iPad.
Oh, really?
It's like that, and you click on it, and it's like a perfect like actual line drawing of the boat, and you can zoom in at the different levels and different compartments, and it like shows what's in each compartment.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, he's like
he ought to market that.
He's like an AI engineer at Google or something, so he's kind of next level coding.
That's pretty cool.
We told him to do it, but it's so much of a pain in the ass. When I first saw it, I was like, well, shit, everybody would love one of these.
Yeah, right.
And then, but he had to like find the line drawing and import it. I mean, it's a lot of extra work. So it really, I mean, maybe AI could do it in another 10 years. It would just import it for you. I don't know.
Yeah,
but,
probably.
But there are
a camera in there, and it'll just go through X-ray every cabinet, every cupboard.
But I wonder if making a list could take away your ability to remember things because you rely on the list. Like we used to remember so many phone numbers when we were a kid, and now we don't remember anybody's phone number because the phone just does it for us. We used to navigate like with maps and without even maps. We just like somehow
ask people directions. Remember Google directions or whatever it was?
Oh, what the hell
it
was
just
that
line by line. It was like, then you're gonna turn left.
It wasn't Google directions. It was. The hell was that called? It was a website.
Yeah, it was maps something.
MapQuest.
MapQuest.
Yeah, MapQuest. And even MapQuest was like an innovation. Before that, I went on a road trip when I was 19 all out west, and it was just maps.
Unfolding
and you're half the time you're lost, but you don't even care because that's your only option. Like, it just doesn't seem like it. But anyways, I'm just saying that maybe relying on these technologies like papers and pencils. I mean, that's some high technology there making lists.
Well, I'm a big proponent of that, of using charts and filling in a logbook and all this stuff. And actually, on a recent trip, the owner was kind of like, he was like, I'm having a little trouble going from viewing the chart plotter to then looking up and making sense of what I should be seeing. And I was like, well, remember, we want to use that just as a supplement, and we want to be really relying on what we're seeing. And think of it this way, you might be in a new town, and you turn on your nav, and it drives you or gets you the directions as you go and tells you which turn here, turn there. The next day, if you don't have that nav, chances are you still can't make that trip.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're not
But back
paying
in the
attention.
day-
Yeah, back in the day, you pay attention.
You pay
A
attention.
left turn at this, whatever it is, this landmark or whatever. Left turn at the
Exactly.
McDonald's and a right turn down there by the liquor store.
And then equate that to, being on the ocean. You might be leaving, like we were leaving Harrington Harbor, and, you got a little dog leg to get out,
yeah.
and you got to go down this way and that way. And if all you're doing is staring at the screen, the next day you do it, you got to stare at that screen again. But then
Right.
let's say the screen blinks off, and now all of a sudden you might have done it 2 or 3 times, but you're like, man, I don't know which one we're supposed to go to. It's like, yeah, you got to step away from it.
Right.
For
Technology
sure.
is, it's a crutch, but if you get used to it, then you're always on crutches, essentially.
Yeah. Well, and actually, look at this case in point, dude. I have my logbook.
Oh, Jesus
from,
Christ.
Not from the big trip, but like
I'm sure
from any other trip. But
Yeah.
look at that
Yeah,
detail.
that puts me to shame.
That's my 3rd one, too.
Oh, my God.
So when I'm an old man and I
Can you
can't
even read it?
remember, I'm going to read that, and I'm going to be like, man, this
Little
adventure.
chilly this morning. Stars were out of this world.
Oh, you're making me sound
When I
terrible.
touched myself, I thought of Matthew.
Hey, easy.
I mean, it's legible enough, though. I mean, if I wrote it, I would never be able to read it again.
Well, and all the data. I've got it because I'm starting another
Yeah,
book.
it puts me to shame.
Well, you got
My logbook is pretty minimal, to say the least.
I'm working on trying to. I've got the spreadsheet for this. Amazon won't format it like this yet, but I want to put out my own logbook that's strictly for sailboats. So it doesn't have any of the garbage you don't need.
Yeah, I don't like a lot of the logbook stuff because you
Most
can blow
of them are
through it.
crap.
Right.
Yeah.
They're fine if you just don't go out much.
Right.
Because then it's like, the destination, pour, I don't know, all this stuff is set up. You blow through a whole page like in a day or something.
It doesn't make any, like this, I log in every like 6 hours typically when I'm out there,
Wow.
unless I'm asleep or whatever. And that works out great. It gives me a little synopsis of what I did and what the weather was like. But really, more than anything, because I don't assume the satellite's going to fall out of the sky. Mm-hmm. I got my nav, whatever. It's great. But this thing for later on in life, I think, is going to be indispensable. Priceless. Fun. Share that. So I don't have any kids, but, maybe some cousins will have kids and they'll
it's
have
never
it.
too late. You could start a brood.
Dude, I'm 100 years old, man. You
Yeah,
kidding me?
well, it's not the first time. I mean, we've had them at 101.
Well, I on that note, I thought maybe we could do a couple shout-outs. First and foremost, Constantine.
Oh, yeah, Constantine. Talking about someone else who's 100.
Oh, no. Shout-out's supposed to be a positive thing.
Oh, yeah, imagine him with kids.
Well, ladies, he's not just a pretty face up there. He's also a big brain.
Yeah.
And he loves being shirtless. So is he? Where is he up in Canada?
Toronto. It can't
Toronto.
be that hot. He's in Canada running around shirtless.
Well, I miss him. He's a great guy. So shout out to Kaz.
Yeah, Costa has,
He's going to be joining you, right?
yeah, he's become a huge help with the kind of behind the scenes technicals for the research. He does the computer coding and builds like these custom computer programs for our for all the sensors. So this year, when all these, we have a ton of sensors in there. We didn't show you all that stuff. It's impressive.
Oh, yeah.
We have some super fragile, crazy. I mean, they're like 300,000. I opened them up last night in these boxes. It was like $300,000 worth of freaking. Some of it took me an hour and a half to get them out of the boxes because they were so wrapped, like packaged
right.
crazy because they're so fragile.
Were there sensors?
Yeah. They're like inorganic carbon, dissolved inorganic carbon sensors. I think that one's like $100,000. That thing's got like all sorts of weird tentacles
Where are you
coming
getting
out
these
of it.
from?
Lycor. So 2 of the representatives were here today. That's why we're down here in Solomon's Island right now instead of Annapolis. We're doing a couple of day, kind of like a dry run. So today they'd like when there's a lot of a lot of sensors, a lot of different connections, all sorts of things. So they went through all that today with Nicole, and then I was just there helping as I could. And tomorrow we'll take the boat out and we'll do like a practice run, locally on the water. To make sure the flow-through system. The flow-through system's fine. It's just a pump as far as like flow-through goes, right?
Yeah.
But we got the thermal salinograph, which we had when you were. Yeah, we had that when you were there. It's below the floor. You never see it.
Right.
And that's salinity, temperature, and salinity and temperature. And then there's all this others. There's CO2 sensors. There's methane sensors. There's carbon sensors. There's this whole giant, crazy-looking thing with these tentacle-looking tubes coming out of it. That's this dissolved inorganic carbon sensor thing. It's like this big box.
So you're gonna be doing some different sort of research this time.
It all plays into what we've been doing. So in 2015 and 16, we're actually going back up to the far northwest Greenland, where I haven't been since 2016, and this is north of the Northwest Passage by latitude. And
like it's just keep going past it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Northwest
Labrador.
Passage is on the other side of Baffin Bay, of northern Baffin Bay, but it's like, Northwest Passage is like 75 or something like that, and Lancaster Sound, I mean, let's just call part of it because it changes, but something like that.
Yeah.
And this is like 78 or something. So, but it's up and around the corner. It's right across. You can see Canada from it. You can see where there's a place where Greenland and Canada get within like 20, 30 miles of each other.
Right.
And you get Ellesmere Island. You can look over and see Ellesmere. So we'll get up there to Etah as our furthest north. I'm going to try to push a little further north than we've ever pushed before, past Etah.
Is it going to be like trying to basically sail through a cocktail of ice and
Etah, yeah. I mean, up there, you might not, I don't know. I mean, there's a chance we won't make it. It just depends on what the ice is like.
If it's locked in.
There's another glacier north of that called the Humboldt Glacier. And the Humboldt Glacier is a massive... It's like 100 kilometers or something. I don't know. Maybe I can't remember if it's 50 kilometers or 100, but it's big, and it dumps off so much ice that it clogs something called Smith Sound. North of Smith Sound is Kane Basin. Kane was one of the Elijah Kent Kane was an American explorer who was generally hated by his crew. We have a history of those.
I understand that. Just kidding.
He has
Nothing
a great
but
story
love.
though, and I'm not trying to give the guy a hard time. I think he was kind of from. I mean, he was. I think he came from some money.
Yeah.
And he had some ego, and he had kind of the flamboyant, wealthy thing going on, and the crew obviously wasn't that way. But there's a great story. They had to like live in some ramshackle thing for the winter because their boat got crushed, and they had to take some little tiny boat south to get saved, and it was one of those things.
Oh, cool.
So
kind of like
yeah,
a Northern Shackleton.
Yeah, kind of. But I mean, I would not say Elijah Kent Kane is anything like Shackleton, honestly.
Right.
And if you ever want the opposite of Shackleton, there's a book called The Land of White Death. And this is the polar opposite of Shackleton. There's like people falling by the wayside, dying. He's just like, yeah, well, fuck it, just go ahead. Yeah, just go ahead then. Fine. If you don't want to, if you want to lay there and die, go for it.
Strip him of his jacket.
Yeah, but and that was a Russian expedition trying to get to I think they got locked in the ice in the Arctic. I think they were trying to get to the open polar sea, just like guy George DeLong on the Jeanette.
Yeah.
Which is a book called The Kingdom of Ice about that, which is a great story, too. And they thought back in the day that the top of the planet was an open polar sea, and it was tropical, and they thought there might even be people living up there, like in Atlantis.
Oh, really?
Like a super technological, like you go up
Sounds
there,
like
they got like
Admiral
flying saucers.
Bird,
Oh, yeah, it's
flying
total,
into the
like,
center
it's
there.
total, yeah, it's total, was that Jules Verne, the center of the earth was a voyage, or was it
No,
Voyage
it
to the
was
Center of the Earth?
Admiral Byrd. He was like a full-on war hero, decorated, and he, suppose they found his journals or whatever, and they were down in Antarctica, and essentially he was flying this plane, and then he supposedly went through like this warp, and all of a sudden it's green, it's lush, there's animals.
There you go.
And funny side note, this lady up in wonderful lady who's helped me out a bunch up on Cape Cod. I'm staying at her boathouse this summer for some speaking stuff, but she owns this little tiny launch boat called Donkey, which belonged to Admiral Byrd.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
we're going to be able to take it out and rip around in the little harbor
that's
there.
interesting.
It's such a weird small world like that.
Yeah. So I don't think we'll get into Kane Basin because Kane Basin, we'll get into Smith Sound.
Yeah.
Which is this passage to get to Kane Basin. But there's so much ice. I'll try. If we can get in there, we will. But normally there's so much ice.
Yeah. It's
and we've gone through heavy ice in Smith Sound before where it's like, there's so much ice you could like get off the boat and walk basically on either side of it.
That's super dangerous though, right?
You have to do it in flat, calm conditions. And
do you have to put immersion suits on too to make it safe?
No, you try to make it less
can't
safe.
They like flip?
I try to get everybody wet first.
Bikinis
Yeah,
and
bikinis.
Speedos.
And you get really drunk. Just get absolutely hammered. Maybe.
And then we go to the hospital.
Yeah. Well, there is no hospital up there.
Yeah,
Then
right.
you go to Davy Jones' very cold locker, the
Well,
frozen version. But no, it isn't. The danger level has a lot to do with ice, current and wind.
Yeah.
So if there's
things
not
start
much current and
moving.
not much wind, you poke your way through it. You find leads. It's not that terrible. It is claustrophobic, I guess, with all the ice, but it's
bet,
not.
yeah.
If the weather is okay, it's not that big of a deal. But it also depends on the ice, right? Because I've seen pieces of ice, like last time we were in Northwest Passage 2023, I was seeing pieces of ice that were like a mile by a mile round, surrounded by all sorts of other bits that were smaller size, but the centerpiece would be huge. Just
And if
one
it starts
solid,
moving on you,
you're not going to break through that or push it out of the way.
No.
It's millions of pounds. I don't know, billion pounds. I don't know how much that ice weighs. But what is a circular mile of ice, pack ice weigh?
Jeez,
You know, I mean,
no
yeah,
idea.
yeah.
Well,
But way too
speaking of
much.
getting stuck in the ice, have you heard anything from Randall?
Yeah, I talked to Randall not too long ago.
Is he
actually.
in the-
old,
where
old
is he
Randall
now?
Reeves? He went through the Northwest Passage this year.
He went through
Yeah.
from west to east?
He always does west to east. I think he's done it 3 times now, west
Oh,
to
my
east.
gosh.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought he was going to freeze in up there.
I think that was the year before that, I want to say. I think in 2023, maybe he went up to Alaska. What I heard, he was going up to Alaska to spend the winter, like, stuck in the ice
Stuck
somewhere.
in the ice.
I don't know
I thought
where.
that because I was texting him, I think, trying to get him on the podcast in like August, and he was, I think, in Alaska at that point, prepping the boat. So you just splashed Mo, and he was like, I'm too busy, blah blah blah, and that's totally understandable, but crazy.
Well,
gotta get him
Randall
on the horn again.
is
He's a whole different breed, man.
yeah, and Randall doesn't, he's definitely not doing any of it for the accolades or the
Oh,
or any
definitely
of that
not.
stuff. Out of anybody
Definitely
I
not.
know, I'd say it's the least of that. Like,
Yeah.
he's humble to a fault, even I would say, because he
Yeah.
knows so much information and he's almost I don't know if bashful is the right word to say it, but he doesn't really he wants to be so humble that like it's like, but you know so much, Randall. Like at this point, you've done some crazy
You gotta
shit.
share that info.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
and I mean, he's got the book that he did about the figure eight, where it's a lot of the photography as well. But last time I talked to him, he said he was working on like a full, written book about that trip.
Well, check out. He might have that out. I don't know. But if you check out the figure eight, what's this website? Figure eight
Voyage.
Figure Eight Voyage. Yeah, check that out. Randall's the man. So
He
he's
is
going
the man.
around the Americas over like 2 years.
Yeah.
So he's doing I
Yeah,
think
he
it's
likes to
both.
stop. I don't know what his deal is.
Yeah, well, that's stopping. Jesus
People are always
Christ.
like, I don't know why you don't like to stop. I'm like,
Yeah, terra firma's
been
overrated.
there, done that, dude. The
Yeah,
ocean's where it's at, man.
We're always on land.
It's the Wild West. It's the last frontier.
Yeah,
It's the
yeah.
biggest, baddest place on our planet, dude. And
Yeah.
we get to be king. Maybe that's
Well-
a little bit of it,
Yeah, I don't know. I think Poseidon is always king.
Well, yeah.
We're
I
kind
guess,
of like
but,
somewhere low down in the
just
court.
dip a little whiskey over the side
I
as you
feel like I'm
leave
like
from
somewhere
there. Okay.
below the tuna or something in the pecking order.
Yeah, right. Well, one day we'll both go down at sea, and then we can haunt mariners
Yeah, that'd be good.
for centuries.
I'd love to haunt mariners.
God, wouldn't that be great?
God, what's future ships gonna look like though? All gonna be like foiling and going 100 knots.
Oh, God, I know. Who knows? Who knows, man? I don't know. Well, remember, though, 10, 15 years ago, the ships were smaller and they went 18, 22 knots. Now they're much bigger. They do 12 knots. Maybe they're just going to get bigger, like a 2,000-foot car carrier or whatever that does 8 knots.
Can you have a haunted boat?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Now, what's the smallest boat that could be haunted?
Ooh, I don't know.
I mean, can you have like a freaking laser that's haunted? You know what I'm saying? Like at what point?
You could have
is
one that
there-
has gremlins.
It's
you
like
know?
a house. It's like, okay, you got a haunted house, but is there like a haunted outhouse? Like at what, or like a shed? Like at what point does it just get so small that it just
The wind
becomes
blows
irrelevant?
up.
You know?
Well, I mean, the one that I've heard plenty of stories from is sitting there on the beach at Cayman Brac. Or no, not, yeah, I think it's Cayman Brac. Not Chichester. Freaking Crowhurst's boat. The hull of it's still down there in Grand Cayman.
Oh, that's something electric. Tilghman Electric.
Tilmouth Electric.
Something like that.
Something like-
Yeah.
Tenmouth Electra. I think it
Yes.
was.
Yeah. From what
But
dude, if I
supposedly-
won the lottery, I would fucking grab that motherfucker and resurrect it.
Dude, I think the plywood is paper thin.
That's fine. I'll wrap it in fiberglass.
Well, some of my people that I talked to had been there and they visited it. They looked at it and stuff, and they were just like, I can't believe the guy tried to go around in that.
Well, yeah, he didn't go around.
He did not make it far.
Well, it goes back to people not knowing much and pushing out to sea. I mean, it's good what people are, getting you to do, is hiring you to help them go through their boats, learn the boats, go out to sea. I mean, it sounds like a variety of stuff you've been doing.
Oh, my God, it's so much fun.
Some of it is offshore stuff. You said you spent 16 days or something offshore.
In the Bermuda Triangle.
In the Bermuda
Got
Triangle.
a little
man.
weird out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Saw some
view there,
UFOs.
I'm sure.
What? Well, when you're doing double-handed, it's basically like one person's awake, the other person's asleep.
Oh, yeah. What
Except for
was your
maybe
watch
like
schedule? 4 on, 4 off?
We did 4 on, 4 off during the day, and then 3 on, 3 off at night, and it rotated. So that, like, one day I'd have 2 4-hour watches, the next day I'd only have one. So it gave each person a chance to really, crash out one day and get those good 8 hours, and so I found because normally I would just do 3 on, 3 off. Ooh. Because I don't know, that's just what I'm used to.
Yeah, everybody gets used to their own thing.
Yeah.
I always did. Well, 4 on, 4 off or 5 on, 5 off.
The only problem with the 4 on, I mean, the dog watch and stuff, there was one watch where he let me sleep for like an extra hour and a half or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I get up finally and I'm like, oh, man, whoa, holy smokes. I was like, thanks. And he's like, all right, well, I'll see you at, 6 or whatever, which made it so I had like a 4.5 hour dog watch. And I was like, it doesn't work like that. If you give me time, it doesn't mean I have to. It was all right, but we didn't screw up the watches after that.
My favorite is 3 on, 6 off.
If we got a full crew, like 3 or 6 people,
that's a great one. But
the only thing, sometimes it gives you a little too much time, but if I got a good collection of books, I only brought 2 books on that trip, and I peeled right through them. So I don't know. It wasn't too bad. I'm looking at this library in here. That's awesome. I wonder if my book's up there.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Can't wait till your book's up there.
Yeah, you're going to be waiting a while.
Golly.
I need something to release it within, I guess. Maybe that's just a stupid thing, or maybe that's a stupid excuse.
What does that even mean? Release it within.
That means that if I mean, it's coming along. I keep chipping away at it.
Oh, okay. It's a work in progress.
Yeah. But if I release it now, some people who would get it, I guess, people listen to podcasts or whatever else. Have you gone through that publishing route when you release your book as far as
I tried
the nonsense?
After like 50.
Yeah, exactly.
There were a handful of people, literary agents, that were like, oh, yeah, we just want to change everything. And I was like, not happening there. Because, I think back to Montessier and how he was like, you can't even touch this book. Don't even change one word.
Yeah,
I don't want to be quite like that. I was kind of open to some stuff, but, when you're like, when I was talking about my trip and when you're talking about your trip, these are, I think, personal experiences. And I think it's more about us sharing it and less about like, is this going to be on the New York Times bestseller list, which is a crock of shit anyway, because these publishing companies buy 10,000 copies so that it automatically goes on. Right. They put them in a closet somewhere. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I would just, you keep plugging away. And then from my own experience, I just wish I would have tried to edit it and get other people's input for longer before I actually put it out, but I was broke, and I was like, I need this book to get out there, and I need to make a little money, or I was going to have to sell the boat.
I had a publishing company want to give me a deal for the book, or an advance and all that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it sounds good, but it wasn't. It was, they want to give me a $2,000 advance. Yeah. They wanted the rights to every aspect of it forever. They wanted half of the money for every speaking engagement I did for the rest of my life where I mentioned it. Yeah. They wanted the movie rights, and the film had already been made, The Red Dot in the Ocean. It's already out there. It's like, have you guys done any homework? Like, the movie's already out there. Like, and I'm not giving you my speaking money. Like, and for $2,000 for the rest of my life.
Run.
So it ain't like a publishing deal sounds good until you start reading the contract. And also, I'd get pennies on the dollar. My percentage of sales would have been nothing.
I think if you were gonna put out, like, if you were thinking, wow, I love this. This is so much fun. I'm gonna just keep writing. You'll have 10 books over the next decade. Then it's something maybe to consider, but.
Yeah,
if
I'm
we're
not
putting out 1 or 2 books in our lifetime, honestly, I say put it out on Amazon, because then you can get your own copies to sell your own thing, but also it's available for the mass market to just grab. And bookstores and stuff can buy them too at like cost or whatever and sell them. So
No, you don't write a book to make money. You write a book because you want to write a book, and if people read it, then great. If not, whatever, I guess. But yeah, I mean that's the whole.
It'll be cool. You'll get there, man.
I'm
It's gonna be awesome.
I'm all right. Whatever. I mean, it'll come out. I want to release it when I do the next single-handed trip.
There we go.
Because then I feel like there's some momentum behind it. That's what I was trying to say very badly earlier.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
Trying to say I want to release it when there's something going on, like there's something else, something else happening besides just this stuff.
Well, obviously, I'll always try and put the word out.
I don't expect many people to buy it. I don't really care.
Oh,
It's not a money maker. It's not
the first ever one of those trips, though. So even though it happened a while ago, my trip included in that.
Yeah,
too,
but my book is going to be 3 parts at this point. So
it's a story.
There's going to be all that early stuff, and the drug dealing and the goings in jail.
Well,
five times.
That's
and
actually
cooking
super
meth
cool,
and
because you can have
all that
multiple
shit.
narratives.
Well,
The worst part about a sailing book is that typically they start in the beginning and they just slowly go through. And sailing, unfortunately, is typically kind of boring.
Well, it's a lot of boarding, a lot of moments of boredom with other moments of sheer
What do they say, like
insanity.
90%, or something like that, where it's 90% boredom, 10% like sheer terror.
Yeah, that's it. I mean,
My rudder is taking on water north of Bermuda. There's a low pressure system coming in south of me.
I just had that happen.
I know.
I'm not going to write a book about it, but I did a podcast.
Yeah, I know. I listened to it. It's good, man. Well, on the shout out train, can we do a shout out to my old man, because he listens to your show, and I know you're going to put this one out. Jim Bob.
Well, we don't always. We try our hardest with our children.
I shouldn't have said
we
that.
do what we can do, but it's just sometimes I don't blame you, Jim Bob. I know you tried.
Thank you, Skip. Appreciate that. He'll love that one. He'll love that. He's up there with this Great Dane. He takes the Great Dane to the hospital every week. He did it with the one he had before for 9 years. But the Great Dane's great because it's so tall. Its head makes it to the top of the hospital bed. So
Everybody loves dogs.
everybody loves dog. And that one technically would be considered a house pony, because she weighs 170 something pounds.
Jesus.
Oh yeah.
What does he put her in? They get in the back of the Honda Civic or something?
He
Or-
has to lift her into the truck,
Yeah,
but
okay.
she'll get her front paws up, and then he has to kind of lift her hind legs up. But I mean, she's a blue, so she's gray, which makes no sense to me. But
Right.
beautiful dog.
Yeah, they do it with pit bulls too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a blue that's
gray.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
gray.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is, but good shout out. I like that. Jim will be happy for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
For sure.
So yeah, man, it's just going here, just trying to get this goddamn boat ready, and
Are you excited about the trip though?
I'm just exhausted. I think right now.
Get
I'll
some
rest
good
again in
sleep.
October.
Yeah. Well, but you get some. I mean, once you get up
I'll be
there,
okay. I'm fine. I'm not that bad. I mean, it's been a lot worse in the past as far as preparing for these trips. We've had other ones that were much worse. Actually, I mean, I feel like I could leave in a couple of days, like I said, if I have to.
Yeah.
The crew is doing well, and everything is pretty good. So no, I mean, it's not terrible. It's it's just a lot, I guess. But
becoming old hat for you though at this point.
yeah, it's my 7th time sailing in the Arctic, and 6th time going up there doing research.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been up there a bunch. But it doesn't. The Arctic or Greenland in particular is so out of this world in so many different ways. You never really get tired of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a dramatic mountains. There's no trees. You don't see a tree for months.
Do they have polar bears in Greenland?
Far enough north, they do.
Far enough.
Actually, they got them down south. They killed one near Pammy at 2023. We saw his dead ass on a forklift right next to the
really?
boat. It was 10 feet from the boat was a forklift with a dead polar bear on it, and then the whole town gathered because they hadn't seen one in a decade.
Yeah.
'Cause they're almost never down there. I think what happened, the polar bears that get to the south, they ride the ice around from the east coast and they ride it down and around the bottom and start riding it back up the west coast because that's the way the current works.
Oh,
the current
okay.
goes up the west coast and down the Canadian side.
Yeah.
And so, they can ride it. So we saw 6 polar bears last time we were up there in Northwest Passage, 2023, and they were riding the ice. Like, we didn't see one of them. We saw right where we were hanging out, like, multiple times. We used to stand on the spot to fly a drone because there's a lot of ice coming in. And we thought we might get trapped by it.
Yeah.
And we went to go over and look. Nicole had this whole thing. There's this little lake. She wanted to put a CTD in it, and she got all excited, and it was kind of ridiculous. She wanted to core it. We're going to take the dinghy and drag the dinghy over to this little tiny lake and do a core
she's
and
a
a
go-getter.
CTD.
Don't be a Debbie Downer.
Yeah, well, it would have been point, like, nobody would have processed it. No paper would have been published from it. It would just. But anyways, we looked over. There's a giant polar bear standing there. So we're like, I think we're just gonna stay over here.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean,
they
'cause
ride
it's
the
a
ice.
threat. It really is. Those things, all they want to do, they see you and they think food.
Well, they see anything and they see
Anything.
food. Yeah, I mean,
they're
they live in a world of starvation,
Right.
Based on and same with the Inuit traditionally. 150, 250, 350 years ago, the Inuit was a culture based on starvation.
Yeah.
And you think about their biggest enemy being cold, and in some ways it was, but really starvation was the number one enemy. So being a hunter was like everything in Inuit society.
Right.
And when your grandparents got old and they could no longer hunt or make clothing, they're supposed to kill themselves. And if they weren't good grandparents who would either jump off a cliff or walk into the ocean, then you would strip them naked and wall them up in an igloo and help them kill themselves. So the moment you could no longer help the community, right, whatever that little group of Inuits living together is, if you're good, you're supposed to go kill yourself because you can't provide anymore.
Right.
And
Propagation.
sometimes they put
species.
female
Jeez.
babies out on ice floes because women aren't going to grow up to be hunters. So they would cast the females off, hoping to get a male the next time, which seems completely ridiculous because the women. Women, they did a lot of the butchering. They did all the made all that cool clothing, that polar bear freaking fur parkas and shit that kept them alive. I mean, they had a huge
and looking
important
after
role
the
in
kids and doing all the stuff while the hunters are out there.
They did everything outside of hunting, essentially, right? The guys did the hunting and they did everything else, and they did some fishing and they did some hunting. I mean, Inuit women weren't passive in that way. I mean, they were badass, living in that harsh environment also. So they definitely were out there helping with, particularly with whatever little bit of fishing they could do, which was tricky. But
it always makes me think, though, it's like, why would you keep living in a place like that?
Well, they thought the whole world was that way.
Oh,
they didn't realize that anywhere was warm. And when they looked at the moon, they thought it was frozen. So they just thought the whole planet was the same as what they experienced. They had no idea that there was any other existence. And that's kind of part of the problem. When you read the stories of the old explorers, the Elijah Kent Keynes or whatever, Perry's, especially the original, the English, that went up there, Franklin or whatever.
And all that,
when these were some of like the first times that they've ever seen white people essentially, or Westerners or Europeans or whatever. And the boats, they're all, of course, they thought the boats were like birds, or I don't know, they didn't know what to make of the boats either. But overwhelmingly through all, and I've read all these different books, or a lot of them at least, they all say that the Inuit were some of the happiest people, like the happiest people they ever met in their entire life.
Right.
Like, and maybe it's an ignorance is bliss thing, I don't know, but they were genuinely super happy. And they didn't have much. I mean, they didn't have vegetables to the most part. They had lived off just meat. They didn't have any like
ketogenic diet right there.
Man, the carnivore diet, man. You got to do the carnivore diet. They didn't have any alcohol or drugs, obviously, which later on really fucked them up because they
always does.
Yeah, well, we've been drinking alcohol for how 1,000 generations. I have no idea how many, but a long time.
Yeah,
and they started like 3 generations ago, maybe 4 generations ago at this point. So their stomach actually lacks an enzyme to break down alcohol in the same way that we do. We've evolved over 1,000 generations to be able to process it better. But anyways, they went from being the happiest people that these explorers have ever met in their entire life to now having the highest suicide rates on Earth. Right. So Greenland has the highest teen suicide rates, has the highest suicide rates, has the highest other stats that are quite rough, has the highest daddy-daughter rape. It has all sorts of bad stats these days.
Well, I think there was a lot of the same thing that happened in like a lot of these islands down in the South Pacific when, first people got there, like these people are just hanging loose. They're in their village, obviously there's like local squabbles and stuff, but it's about eating food, fishing, fruit, all that sort of stuff. But then, it gets introduced the whole idea of like money and ownership and all this sort of stuff.
And that's an interesting thing. And I think it's kind of hard for us to understand, very hard for us to understand that the traditional Inuit of 200, 300, 500,000 years ago, because their culture didn't really change for a long time until they ran into Westerners, essentially, who ran into them.
Right,
but a lot of these things talking about, having to wall up your grandparents, or it sounds terrible, or whatever it is, but
survival.
And there was other things, like they had no ownership within like marriage, for instance. So like if you would come over to my igloo, like I'd give you some food, and then I'll let you bang my wife. And the igloos are small. So you do it right. But to them, there was no religion. So there never had like an influence of like Christianity, for instance, or Catholicism saying that sex is a sin if you're not married.
Yeah.
Or whatever religion you can think of, whatever it is.
The modern norms, yeah.
Yeah, they never had any of the so to them, sex was just I know you don't like swearing, and this is going to sound terrible, but they got there's an old Inuit saying that you can wear out a pair of boots, but you can't wear out a pussy.
Oh my God.
I told you it's a terrible thing. And it probably sounds so much better in the Inuit language,
right?
Because I'm sure the translation just sounds grotesque. But nevertheless, the idea it's a very free-loving. There wasn't ownership. It was all about the community. If somebody got pregnant, you just took care of the kid. It didn't matter if it was your kid or not. It was, and obviously they were living in an existence where they didn't they thought the whole world was that. They didn't really understand for the most, especially the further north ones, The more southern ones, they didn't like the forests. They knew that they existed south of them, but they thought they were haunted. And there was other tribes of like non-Inuit sort of Native American or whatever you would think of, those types that lived in those forest areas that were much more violent. See, one thing about the Inuit is they never waged war, really. Like Inuit,
it's a waste of energy.
They never fought each other. Yeah, I mean, they might fight each other one-on-one or something, but there was never they had no bloodlust really. So they never like attacked each other or conquered each other. Like all that shit we think about in so many societies, going back to like Babylon and the Assyrians, to the English Empire, to America invading whatever, Vietnam or whatever it is. They never had that. So it's like
they were probably too busy trying to just survive.
trying to survive.
I am so hungry. The last thing I want to do is go.
Yeah, so I think there's some really beautiful aspects, I think, of their traditional culture. Yeah. There's some aspects that are hard for us to understand. I think it's real easy to judge. But if you haven't, grown up and lived in that experience, it's sort of a weak judgment to make.
Right.
And right now, Greenland unfortunately has a lot of issues, and 60% of their economy is based on Denmark. So they can't.
They're like a fully subsidized.
Yeah, they get about $4 billion of subsidies a year from Denmark for 56,000 people roughly. So they can't really. They want their freedom from Denmark, but they can't really extract themselves from Denmark because so much of their economy is connected to it. They have no exports,
right?
Like none, like zero, except for fish. But the people who own Royal Greenland is the big fishing fleet there, and it says by the Crown of Denmark. By the decree of the Crown of Denmark on the big plaque on all the fucking things. You see Royal Greenland everywhere. It's Danish. So the Danish own the fishing boats. The people who work them are Greenlandic. The people out there getting ice cold fingers from pulling those nets in ice cold water,
their lives.
With cold ass wind blowing on their face and storms and ice everywhere. Those guys are the Greenlandic guys. But the people who own the boats, those are Danes.
And they're raking in the profits.
So what would they do? How are they going to? Now they want to do mining, but there's no infrastructure. It would take years and billions of dollars. There's only 64 miles of paved roads in all of Greenland.
Jeez.
Yeah, none of the cities are connected, or towns, I really should say, are connected by roads. The mountains up there are just ludicrous. I mean, it's like Lord of the
whole
Rings.
Interior is just
the interior is a giant chunk of ice, most of it. But if you get closer to the coast, the sort of mineable areas, I guess you could say, it looks like the mountains of Mordor and Lord of the Rings. And I'm not some big Lord of the Rings guy, but the Mountain of Mordor, there's no trees. It's just a bunch of rock. They're jagged. They're steep.
Well, because it's been all swept. Because, I mean, I'm assuming that during the last ice age, it was just complete ice up there. It must have stripped the land of everything.
Yeah, and there's been 17 ice ages in the last million years.
Right.
So it's been carved and recarved and recarved and recarved. I think some of those fjords probably have been through multiple ice ages. So
I'm sure, yeah,
because they just become conduits for ice to flow in over time, and and they might change and mutate from one ice age to the next. But yeah, it's a really extremely rugged land, it's the fact that there's not many people in Greenland, but that's because the fact anybody could survive there at all. There was a group of Vikings that settled there.
Yeah, didn't they found their like little huts or something like that, or like the foundation circles or something. And
yeah, they didn't. They had settlements on the southeast and southwest. Yeah, it was like 13 or 12 something is when they went there, and then they went back in like 1520 or something to see, because they hadn't heard from them forever, and they didn't get that tax money. Right, you're supposed to get a little bit of that tax money now. You're still part of us. Are you still one of us? Where's your tax money? So it's,
pay up.
So and it'd been a long time. So they eventually some guy went out there and looked for them, and he found the remnants of their villages, and their skeletons were small, so they had shrunk. They had become almost like pygmy Vikings because they had so little nutrients within that environment that they were growing to, 5'2" or whatever it was.
Well, because that would stunt your growth. Even if you take a modern child and malnourish them, since they're teeny weeny, they're not going to be able to grow big and strong, I would think. I'm not a doctor, but.
No, that's what I was in Spain. That was a big thing. When I was sailing in Spain years ago, you meet, because there are a lot of the older Spanish guys are short, and the young guys are tall. And the older Spanish guys, when they started bringing milk, we didn't have milk when we were kids. They all got tall.
Yeah, milk and Wheaties.
Yeah.
What the heck is this?
But yeah, no, there's definitely a correlation between having a highly nutritious diet and how tall you can grow. Sure.
Oh, yeah. No.
So, yeah, the Vikings down there.
Eat your vegetables, kids.
They lasted for a little while, but they were also doing the typical European thing, which is they weren't living like the Inuit.
Yeah, they were bringing in their own.
They're bringing
stuff,
in sheep, and they're trying to have cattle, and they're trying to grow crops, which is almost impossible there. And they were, so they weren't doing
planted again.
Yeah, there's like a plant on a rock.
It's snowing, man.
Yeah, it's.
And which one wasn't there like a famous one of the expeditions up there where it was like, dude, we're not going to listen to these native people here. They have no idea what they're talking about. Was that
most of them. Most of the English ones, and
then was there one that they did where they were like, dude, we're going to listen
that was
exactly.
Amundsen.
That was Amundsen. Okay.
So okay. Generally the Franklin went up there with 100 and I think it was 129 guys and a spider monkey for some reason, or something like that, and a couple of ships, and they all got crushed in the ice. The largest loss of life of any Arctic or Antarctic expedition, and some of them lasted a couple of years. A lot of cannibalism and all this kind of terrible.
Jeez.
It was rough. It was super duper rough, right?
Yeah.
And they had lead poisoning from the cans. They sealed it with lead and as a solder and da. So the idea, their perspective, the English, this was the height of the English Empire, where the sun never set on the English Empire. Yeah. And they were a bit of a cocky group at that point in time. They were kind of rulers of the world, so to speak.
Definitely rulers of the sea.
The French would pop up every once in a while. They'd have a 30-year, 100-year war with them. But at that time, they were, pre-Napoleon or whatever. They were well, I guess post-Napoleon too. Post-Napoleon was when the empire really blew up, wasn't it? It was really after Waterloo.
They threw him on freaking St. Helena. Well, they put him on one other island. Then
Corsica, I believe. And he escaped from Corsica, got a new army, and then they had to fight him again or something, and then they stuck him out, and then they killed him with mercury or something like that.
Well, and I was reading something or listening to a podcast, and they were talking about like why they didn't just kill him, and it was like, well, because the people that were making that decision were basically the kings and rulers of these other ones.
Yeah, they didn't want to be.
Maybe we shouldn't set that precedent. Yeah, no, maybe I'd be next.
Yeah, makes total sense. Self-preservation.
Yeah, right.
But they killed him with mercury, I guess, slowly over time. That's the.
That's a theory.
Yeah, that he died from a long and slow mercury poisoning.
Interesting.
So they did kill him, I think, in the end. But anyways, the English would go up to the Arctic and they would look at the Inuit, who at that time were about as primitive could be.
Yeah.
And they were just jovial, happy, almost like from their perspective, probably mentally stunted. From their perspective, they probably looked at them like they were like idiots, basically, which they weren't. But they just come from completely
They were just super stoked.
Well, yeah, they come from totally different. They might as well come from different planets at that point. Yeah. They come from such different cultures that we have different cultures today on planet Earth, but back then they were astronomically different cultures.
The spectrum was way wider.
Yeah, exactly. It had no internet. No
well, and
TikTok
you had the Aborigines down in Australia that were like deep in the outback, never seen anything, and I don't know. They were always described by a lot of people as really lackadaisical, just kind of.
It was the culture. I guess I don't know. Maybe they didn't have a lot to
culture
do.
Was
maybe lackadaisical was the way to do it because what else
are
you gonna
do? It's hot. It's hot. I'm hungry. What are you gonna do? No water.
Yeah, there's no books, Netflix, internet. Well, besides hunting and screwing and sleeping, what else are you gonna do?
Yeah, worship the stars, basically.
Yeah, and try to stay out of the sun. I don't know. That's how. To this day, you go to certain parts of the planet. And people can be a lot more relaxed, when a slower pace of life, if that's what they're used to. You go to New York City, there's no slow pace of life. Everybody's time is money. Got to move.
Half the reason I love still going out into that ocean by myself is what it does to your brain and slows things down. The input, I don't have Starlink or anything like that. The only data I'm getting in would be a weather forecast. But for me, you start just seeing the waves, the sky. Like you were making fun of my logbook, but
I wasn't making fun of your logbook. I can't help the fact you said inappropriate things in there about me.
But no, it is like I feel my brain. It takes between 5 and 10 days for my brain to transition from massive input inundation from these phones and computers and just the general world around us to then just those like 4 elements that are out there.
Right.
And I love it when you get in that zone.
No, I agree.
I find myself to be far happier, even though I'm still always on that emotional roller coaster that just basically is dictated by the weather. All of a sudden, okay, now it's blowing 25 and I got head seas and this freaking sucks. But still, I think there's a stasis that you kind of get into mentally where when you're out at sea and you don't have all that input from, super high speed stuff, I don't know, I think you just kind of get this kind of cool feeling and you're good to go.
Yeah.
As opposed to being on land where it's like panic attacks, anxiety, there's just so much coming at you all the time.
Well, the need to tell the story when you don't have that is a beautiful thing. When you have, like, if you did a single-handed trip with nothing, even maybe weather forecasts, even where there is no. I guess a trip around the Americas, there was very little technology in 2011.
Yeah.
So there was, there was, but there wasn't, satellite communication technology wasn't all that great.
But you just take the world as it comes.
You couldn't do a podcast from sea at that time, right? You couldn't do YouTube videos via Starlink like you can now from sea, which is like a total game changer.
Yeah.
So it's just the nature of it is just there isn't communication with the outside world for the most part, and I had 20 minutes a month on a sat phone.
Right, right.
But that was for business, like something is broken and I'm trying to desperately figure out how to fix it.
I thought you were going to say selling stocks, bonds, getting in my portfolio.
I bought crypto in 2010, 2011.
Well, I'm still, I guess. Well, look at this. That's what I'm still. That's the highest tech
the Iridium
I got.
Go. It's just the first one. The Iridium Go 2 is out.
Yeah,
they
honestly,
were making the plans that were shit. Did you see when the Iridium 2 first came out? The Iridium Go 2. It's supposed to be like 5 times faster or something.
Oh, really?
And they had no unlimited data plan. One of the most beautiful things about the Iridium Go when it first came out was you could actually get an unlimited data and unlimited text and it also
how much did that cost?
With like 200 minutes of talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It's gone up, but it was like 140, 50 bucks or $60 or something.
It's like 600 or something for 400 minutes.
Are you telling me you don't know there's an unlimited data plan for that thing?
Honestly, I go on, I got a SIM card and it lasts a long time, but it cuts you off after 6 months.
Yeah, okay. So next time get the unlimited data on the SIM, and it's about $140 a month,
Where
or
do you
maybe
get
it's
it from?
$160. They all basically have it now. Predict Win. That's Predict Win. Predict Win has always been good to me. Predict Win. You go to predictwin.com.
I'd like to set it up, but I never have the month and a half it's going to take me to figure out how to work it. So I'm like,
no,
nah.
just go. It doesn't take long. I'm terrible at all this shit.
Well, even John told me, he was like, dude, you're going to need some time to sort this out. One of these days, maybe the next big trip I do, I'll
No, it
connect
doesn't
up
take
with
long. Like, believe me. All right. So,
I ain't so
let me
smart to. Although I can use a sextant. A sextant to me is way easier than that.
That's true. That's true. But get the unlimited data package, and you can get it. Well, Predict Win is one of many places, but that's one place you can get it from. It's not that hard to sort out, and you can get as many weather forecasts, and it's unlimited text, unlimited weather forecasts or whatever, which
That's
is only
what I'm
updates every
looking for,
12 hours anyways.
Right.
You only do it once, twice a day or whatever. And then you
usually
get
do every
160 or maybe 200 minutes now a month.
Uh-huh.
None of it rolls over, but
Yeah,
that's
I know.
fine. So-
That's the thing that really just gets my goat. It's like, dude, just let me at least have a year or 2 years with these minutes.
Oh, yeah, they kill
Why
you.
not?
Well, the Iridium Go 2 first came out. They didn't have the unlimited data plan, and then Starlink got dropped like a day later or something. And Starlink is such astronomically better internet. It's like you can't get on the internet with Iridium. You can't, like, it's no way you can. It would take you all day just to download the Google search page. It doesn't work. Like, there is no internet.
It's not for that.
Yeah, it's not for that at all because the Iridium satellite system is ancient and decrepit. That's why.
What I do like about it is that because we had one of the Starlink minis on one of the boats I was recently on, and that was cool, especially when I found out that my bank account got hacked. That was nice to be able to shut that thing down. But we did kind of a comparison a little bit where we went from. And we were going to do a kind of a mock YouTube video about it, but basically setting up the Starlink and getting it connected and then having, the information you're looking for. And then me pulling this out of my pocket and just flipping the thing up and turning on an iPad, and then I've got it. And it was kind of, I don't know, it was like a little bit of battery life, super easy. I don't have a dish. I don't have any of that stuff, even though the Mini's dish is so tiny now.
Yeah, I don't know how well. I mean, I have the Marine dish, and I've used the original one, the RV dish.
Yeah.
Back in the beginning days, you could take it offshore, and they didn't know the difference.
Right.
And you could have an unlimited data package offshore, which they quickly got smart about, and they stopped. But the Marine one is much bigger, obviously. But I think being bigger, it just works.
You get
better.
priority with that too.
Oh yeah. No, it works anywhere.
The Mini works, and it worked all out through the Bermuda Triangle and stuff. And that's I don't know. It was pretty cool. But I don't know, man. Would you if you do end up going through and getting another 30, 40 foot boat to do a big trip, would you take Starlink?
Yeah.
with you?
Well, I am planning at this point to do another big single-handed trip in 2027 where I'll spend about 11 months alone in the ocean and do about 40,000 miles without stopping.
Whoa.
Yeah, which will be nice.
Yeah.
Yes, I will, unfortunately.
You're going to take Starlink out there?
I think I've got maybe 3 big single-handed trips in me, like big ones, like a year alone in the ocean roughly type stuff. And I think the last one, either I'll die on it, so I might be older because I do one every 15 years at this point.
Yeah.
Or I'm just not taking fucking anything, and I'm not telling anybody the story. It's not really, shouldn't really be for that. Honestly, it's great to tell the story, and I know people might get upset, be like, "Oh, well, I want to hear the story." You know what I'm saying? But it really should be something you're doing for yourself. It's not about
100%.
bragging. It's not about whatever YouTube. It's not about that shit.
Not about the gram.
It's not about anything. Yeah, I mean, and that's Motissier today. I mean, Motissier wrote a book.
Yeah.
So obviously he's still
He
doing
wrote a lot
something.
of books. But, he did. Here's a little side note, and it's right up your alley with this. So in the logical route where he and his wife went around Cape Horn to get back to France, they go through a 5-day gale. And this is where he, has the realization, and he remembers Vito Dumas, and he cuts all the things he's dragging behind because the
he don't like drag devices.
Yeah, well, he started out thinking because that was what they used to do, and so he goes up and he cuts all of them free.
I still like drag.
And he only describes in the book the first 24 hours, and then cut to him saying, the rest of the story is best reserved for, close friends around a warm fire.
Oh, yeah.
And he doesn't tell you anything about the nether, like 4 or 5 days of going through this insane gale, the worst one he's ever been through.
Right.
But that's cool because
Yeah,
we don't know. We can only speculate.
But I think it'd be nice just to push out, like Joshua Slocum style. You just push out to sea and disappear over the horizon.
Well, I remember he was just trying to go fishing. He hadn't made up his mind.
Oh, yeah?
And he was out like near George's Bank or something because he left from Gloucester in the States and he was going to go fish. And
And that was it?
And then he got blown further out and he was like, well, I guess we've started. And then he stopped
he
in
disappeared,
Newfoundland
though,
or
on
something.
one of them. The last one, he
yeah.
just disappeared at sea. He went out to sea, and that was the end of him.
Well, and because he used to go on once
Maybe
he
he's
became
still
famous,
out there, man.
He could be haunting. He could be all those weird lights that I keep seeing out there.
The Bermuda Triangle. He went through a vortex, popped out. It was all green, man.
I saw literally a UFO flop out there. That's a technical term.
I'm sure you did.
So no, I did, dude. I study the old sky. I know it very well. And whenever any bright lights as bright as Venus come up and they're not supposed to be there, I notice them like that. And what I saw was a cluster of about 7 of these orbs, and they would come on for about 5 seconds. And then boom, blink out, and then 2 or 3 would brighten up over here. And it was all in one little area of the sky off, I believe it was to the northeast, but they weren't moving. They were there, and they stuck in that same position. It went on for about an hour. That I had never seen before. I think it was a total of about 7 of them. So,
Well, if you're going to see UFOs, I think the ocean would be a number one place because
Yeah,
there's no
yeah.
people out there. You want to be undetected. I mean, it's definitely a place to be undetected.
yeah. Oh, 100%, man. Well, and they see the Navy sees them, I guess, all the time on the West Coast. They got all, that's where that whole, the Tic Tac footage and all that sort of stuff came from. But they see them, submerge and come, I don't even know, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, there was something recently about something coming out of the water, like a week ago or something. You see
Yeah,
that?
there was some
footage
still
of
footage.
I
of
looked at
Yeah,
it, but
yeah.
I didn't really see it, honestly.
Well, that's the thing. It's always still so grainy. You can't. I mean, there's part of me that's like, oh man, I should video. What are you gonna video? These things that look like stars that your phone's not even gonna pick up.
Yeah, no, you need a good camera for that one.
I'll tell you if one of them lands and says, "Hey, Jerome, let's take a ride."
Yeah, well, I mean, if you get probed, man.
Oh my
feeling
god.
for you.
Yeah. They're touching my leg. Oh, they're touching my butt.
But yeah, the next big single-handed trip, I think, part of it, and a good part of it, is trying to get money for the nonprofit.
Yeah.
So I think if I make videos once a week and stick them out there, and people can follow the trip, sort of as it happens through that. Well, through the podcast too, obviously.
Yeah, you can do the pod,
But,
right?
I do a podcast once a week, and I'll make a 10-minute video of whatever the hell has happened during that week, and then hopefully that will generate more donations through opening it up to a wider audience, so more people understand we exist. Because
watch you degrade and then rebuild, because the sea does that. It has to tear us down before we actually. Because you said it yourself. After you've been out there 200 days, you can stay out there forever, right?
Yeah, after a certain
Is that
point.
your number?
Well, roughly, right? After a certain point, you've been out there long enough. It's like the rest of the world just doesn't even exist anymore, and then you're so content. You're so beyond in the zone. You are the ocean, basically. Like your right hand becomes the wind, the left hand becomes the sails. I mean, you are the ocean.
Look at this little poet Pete
I know,
over here
yeah,
getting
little
all flighty.
philosopher.
I love
Well,
it, dude.
yeah,
Well, it's true though. You start to sniff out the squalls wake you up in the middle of the night. You're
Yeah,
like,
you
"Oh."
become the ocean. And the fish become your friends. The birds become your lovers.
So true.
So you had some good seagull, you know what I'm saying?
Well, I definitely would like to do another something or other on Almighty Sparrow. One of the biggest
So we gonna race
blockades.
2027?
We
up for it?
The problem is, dude, it costs too much money. I don't have that
What do you
kind
mean
of
money? What money do you need?
Food and sales.
I mean, Jesus Christ, aren't you making
and
like
if we're going through the Northwest
you-
Passage, I
you're
got to pay
doing
for
all
the
this
fuel.
sale training, doing all these highfalutin talks for Bill Gates and all the rest of these
Yeah, I know,
days?
but I a trip like that, I'm gonna need probably 25 grand just for food and sales.
No, buy some Doge.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Kiss that trip goodbye. I don't know. I mean, I honestly.
25 grand. I mean, come on now. 2027. You tell me between now and 2027, you can't get
I gotta
25
live,
grand
man.
together.
It's not so easy to just back in the
Look,
day.
look, can somebody please sponsor Jerome to race me
That's
on a completely insane, never done before, nonstop single-handed trip?
Yeah, well, honestly, I mean, I had always said Northwest Passage, it's off the table. I don't even want to give it another shot. I don't really care. I just
You
really
shouldn't
wanted
do
to
that.
do that part. But
Why?
if it were a tandem going through there,
Well, I ain't going to tandem your ass.
oh yeah, you would.
No, I'm not. I'm going to smoke you.
We'd both.
I'm going to throw bottles in the ocean behind me that's going to say inappropriate things to you as you
what's
pick
gonna-
them up and read
What's
them.
gonna happen is you're gonna get stuck in the ice, and the old mighty sparrow's gonna crack right
Well, that's
through it.
probably
and
true. I
get
mean,
to
a
you.
West Sail would probably crack through some ice.
Yeah. Well, so I don't know. I mean, it is one of those things.
Well, just go through there. You have to do it nonstop or any of that. Just go through there. I mean,
no
it's
way.
nice.
Why? I don't want to stop up there, man.
I mean, there's
You get eaten by a bear.
It's stuff to see, I guess. Somewhere there's rocks. There's
No,
rocks with moss.
I honestly that idea of trying to do the figure eight, I think is pretty cool. The other one that I have thought a lot about, I just call it like the loop-de-loop, but basically you'd go down the Atlantics, and then you get into the Indian Ocean, but then you do a lap of it. And then you go past Australia, past New Zealand, get in the Pacific, do a lap of the entire Pacific, and then you go underneath Cape Horn and then back up to the Atlantics. So you're doing both the north and the south section of every single of the Pacific, the Atlantic, and the Indian.
Right. Yeah.
And
'Cause
you'd
there is
be out
no
there
North
for a
Indian.
long
So.
time, yeah. Especially with the
You could
Pacific
do
part.
all 7 continents in 2 years if you had about a 60-footer. You can't do it now because of Putin and the whole. You can't sail north of Siberia without a Russian
Northeast
pilot on board.
Passage, yeah,
Some
yeah.
girl is supposed to be trying. An English girl is supposed to be trying this year, from what I understand, to sail above Siberia nonstop. I think she's trying to do the Arctic nonstop single-handed.
Oh, really?
More power to her. I think she's in her mid-20s. She went to Spitsbergen and back. I mean,
Nice.
that's something. But I don't know. I asked her if she had permits. I tried to warn her, like, hey, like they're putting out there, they'll sink your ass if they see you up there.
Yeah.
And they had all these
In the Northeast Passage.
northeast above
Yeah.
Siberia. And it all started in 2017 when the French put a frigate above Siberia, and they got pissed off about it. So in 2018, they said, well, now any boat that goes north of Siberia has to have a Russian pilot on board, and you have to stop in certain ports, and you have to pay certain things to get certain permits, and they complicated the shit out of it, thinking as the ice melts, we can turn this into more of a shipping area and make it more Russian controlled and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with sailboats. They don't give a shit.
No.
Right? So,
Just do
but
trade and commerce and money.
it applies to everybody.
Yeah.
Now, what I don't know is it has been some years, and they've started separating small craft from it. I mean, it makes sense. I know I looked at it because I was thinking about doing that on the Marie Tharp, on the research vessel, before we finished it. I was going to do it as a fundraiser without any interior.
yeah, that'd be
I was
cool.
going to do it just like basically naked inside, and just raise some money that way. I need like one bunk. What do I need on that thing?
Right.
And I called a guy in Russia. I emailed a guy in Russia, I should say. And his whole thing was about getting permits for foreigners to sail to Russia, but mostly like St. Petersburg and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I was like telling him what I'm trying to do, da-da-da-da-da. I know they got this permit. And he's like, don't even bother. It's a waste of time. There's no way in hell. Like, he like shut it down completely. And I did look into it a bit more. I found out that there was like one of the oligarchy, one of the Putin's billionaires was the guy who actually was ones who gave out the permits or kind of controlled it. But what am I going to do to get that guy to give me a permit? Well, how much vodka do I have to give that motherfucker? Like,
It's all about knowing the right people.
yeah, and I don't know any of them, and
right.
they don't care about me.
it's
But
tough.
maybe they changed it. I mean, I give more power to her. I hope she succeeds. But maybe they changed it. Maybe they've started to say, well, you're just a sailboat. You're okay.
Well, for me, it's just off-putting, the whole idea of like, I'm on a vessel, I'm on the water, and some thing is trying to tell me that I can't go somewhere when I'm just floating. That for me, that's just like, well, I don't want to go anywhere near it. That's why I think, I mean, if the Southern Ocean wasn't so dangerous, that'd be my jam. I'd be like, let's go do some laps. This will be sweet. But it's a brutal existence down there.
Who's that English guy who did 3 laps down there?
Well, no, the Australian, John Sanders.
Oh, yeah.
He's
okay.
done it
John
11
Sanders.
times total.
But he did
3.
He did 3 of them, didn't he?
Yeah, and one of them was east to west. But he's just doing the southern hemisphere. He would dip up to go across the equator and come back down.
Because you have to, because these old dudes smoking cigars in England in dark rooms with a bunch of wood around them and a globe in the middle.
You must leave from 40 degrees north to circle the globe.
If you don't cross the equator, they won't give you the you've sailed around the world nonstop single-handed title, which is kind of horseshit.
Well, I mean, the only thing that I would think would be kind of valid, maybe take the, 24,000 miles is the circumference of the Earth at the equator?
I think is it 24?
Something
I thought it was 28.
Well, let's say it's
26.
26.
All right, fair enough.
I would think that if you're going to claim to circle the globe, that should be the minimum, is like the circumference of the Earth. You got to sail that many miles. And it doesn't matter. I mean, you're obviously not doing it in a straight path or whatever, but that makes sense in my brain. Not that I think that's the way it should be by any means, but like, I don't know. The whole idea of ripping around Antarctica and dipping up to the equator, more power to anybody. That's an epic trip. The Southern Ocean is insane. No, I don't think I'm throwing shade on anybody, but there is a difference when you add another, 6,000-7,000 miles onto the trip.
Unless you want to circumnavigate Antarctica, which I think only 3 people have done.
Yeah. Because then that one, the cigar smoking fellows, what do they say? You have to stay.
You have to stay below 45.
Below 45 the whole time.
Yeah, you got to stay below 45. Which 45 isn't that much.
Except
in
the Indian Ocean, that's where it's brutal. Because Antarctica's right there.
Yeah.
Like the Pacific, I don't think I went above 46 the whole time I was in the Pacific. I just stayed down there because I was getting the seasons were changing. I was late. I didn't know how to sail Sparrow quite as fast as I do now.
When did you make it around the Horn?
April 7th.
Oh, my birthday's April 6th.
Oh, ain't I?
You just
missed it. Jeez. There must have been a bright star in that sky.
Or a UFO. One or the other.
Right. But no, I mean, all these trips, like, I think it all just goes right back to, you got to do it because you want to do it. It's a burning desire inside of you. Not that you want to write a book or that you want to, get famous or
sailboat influencer.
If you want to do that, go join one of these races and win the freaking thing.
Yeah, sure. That's true.
But and really, to be honest, anybody that's going to go out on a boat, whether it's a big sail, huge trip, tiny trip, first passage, awesome. I like seeing anybody get out on that water, even when it just destroys them, as long as it doesn't kill them. It's fun to go out and have these adventures. Sailing is epic. I love it. I always want to propagate it. I want to support it. I want to advertise it. I want to be an ambassador. I don't want to be one of those no, your boat's this or that.
Well, I'm guilty of some of that.
I know, but that's okay. It's what makes you you.
I mean, I've
come
around. I've changed. I'm changing all the time.
Don't change, Pony Boy.
I am a work in progress. So I'm always evolving as a human.
We have to be, right?
I don't care. I mean, what I realized some years ago was that most people are not going to be sailing around Cape Horn, and most people are not going to be crossing oceans. So you don't really need a heavy double ender like 1970s, where every boat was a heavy double ender.
Right.
Like, it doesn't make sense. So most of the so-called plastic, fantastic liner-built production boats that really fill most of our marinas are perfectly fine for what people need. Yeah. They're great day sailors, or great weekend boats. They can coastal cruise and island hop.
Hit the Bahamas for a season.
Yeah, they're actually, they can do most of the things you need, and they're spacious and roomy. Yeah, and and the older ones have actual wood in them, like a lot of the printed on particle board and all that bullshit. Yeah. So, I mean, you can get, I don't know, whatever. Well, I mean, I've just got beyond even caring, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's all to each their own. We used to, on the Appalachian Trail, it was always hike your own hike, sail your own sail, enjoy it, try and get the best out of it. And,
and I'm not anybody to say anything. I mean, I went around the Americas on an Alban Vega. Like, who the fuck am I to say what isn't seaworthy?
Yeah, I know,
oh,
right?
you're Beneteau 40? Ooh. It's like,
I always, whenever people ask, because people are like, oh, Matt? And I'm like, yeah. And they talk about that one, and I'm like, that is the luckiest guy in the world. There's no way that boat should have done it.
Well,
but no,
it was falling apart.
It was falling apart, dude.
I pieced it together with bubble gum and fucking duct tape,
But it's really, it speaks volumes about what boats can what boats can actually do out on that ocean. And no matter how much you could take a West sail and you could put a second set of every shroud on it, oversize the mast, and do a million things to make it as bulletproof, for a 1,000-year storm. The ocean's going to wipe it clean. The ocean's going to wipe it clean.
Oh, yeah, sure.
There's nothing
that's sink-proof out there. That's for damn sure.
The idea of, I'm going to prepare this boat 100%. There's a guy who emailed me, and he wants to outfit a West sail for a big trip, like maybe going around the world and stuff. I have yet to chat with him, but he was listening to a lot of these big changes, and he's probably going to listen to this. So We'll definitely chat.
Don't do the changes.
No, I'm not saying don't do it. It's
Stock West sail, man. I love the West sail.
There's some of the changes.
West sail was
that make
born
sense.
perfect. You were born perfect, baby. You don't need to change.
Don't you go changing. But they built these boats so they overbuilt them to such an extent.
Man. I got nothing but respect for West sails or West snails, or whatever you want to call them.
They can't it's one of those things where there's just some areas where if you're bulking it up, you're not gaining anything.
No, West sail does not need bulked up.
Not much.
I'm sure there's things that can be done.
There's weak points for sure.
Yeah. But all boats have them.
That was a big thing for why I chose that boat in particular. Was there's just such a wealth of knowledge that I was like, oh, okay. So they've identified why all these masts went down, and it was because of these two little things.
Right.
And so you fix those, and then you move on, and all that.
And there's enough out there and enough made, and they're voyaging boats. The Alban Vega is 5,070 pounds.
Jeez.
It's a 5,000 pound boat.
Just like a cork. That documentary should have been a cork on the water. A ping pong ball.
Well, I think
water.
the kind of at least part of the moral of that passage is just like if a person refuses to give up, because in that case it was like either I'm gonna die doing this or I'm gonna finish it. Like there's no other option.
Bro.
Then you can do a lot if you're willing to if there is no retreat, essentially.
It's that voyage on that boat and the age you were and who you were, super impressive. By all means. And I'm not trying to blow smoke up the old keister.
I knew that guy too. Oh, jeez.
Freaking love it.
Well,
man.
Hopefully, I don't know. I do feel a mixed thing about the idea of the next passage in that way, because a big part of me would love to just do a big single-handed trip and not tell any story or do any podcast or take a single picture or any of it. Like when I rode a bicycle through Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Thailand back when I was 21 years old, I never took a single picture.
Yeah.
Like I didn't write blogs. It was supposed to be an experience that I went through for me to experience these cultures, to go through the difficulties of riding a Schwinn fucking bicycle through the jungles of Vietnam, all that kind of shit, And there's been times I look back where, of course, I'd love to have a picture because I literally don't have a single one from 100 days of biking through there. But
you get a mental picture.
Oh, and I can sit here and remember. There's moments I can remember with clarity. Like I can see it without closing my eyes, looking at your ass, and it's a little prettier.
Did you write a journal?
No, I did nothing. I know you love your journals. But it wasn't about any of that shit.
Look at this one. Like, wow.
All right.
It's got a clasp on
I had
it.
a minimal journal. I ain't gonna lie. My sister made me a little one, and I wrote a little. I'm not much of a journal writer, so I didn't, it was 2002 when I did this. So there wasn't phones with cameras on them and all this kind of. Nokia was probably
it was the old digital camera.
Well, I didn't have a phone the whole time, of course. You know, when I sailed Europe, Africa, Caribbean, and back was that 2-year single-handed trip on that Pearson 323. That was 2008 to 2010.
That just rolls off your tongue. You talk about that boat all the time, and you're always saying that Pearson 323.
Yeah. Well, I didn't have.
Did you get that tattooed?
Oh Jesus!
Sorry, keep going.
I don't even remember what the fuck I was going to say.
Oh, I interrupted you.
I didn't have a phone. I didn't have a cell phone for 2 years. And I didn't even think about it. And I got to the Virgin Islands and people were giving me shit. Because like, what's your phone number? And I'm like, I don't have a phone.
Yeah, right.
And they're like, what do you mean you don't have a phone?
I didn't have one for the longest time, even when I was working at Bitter End. And then they finally bought one for me. And I was like, dang it. I don't want that.
Well, it's like once you don't have it for a little while, it's like you don't. It doesn't matter, and that's part of the problem. It used to be that we go to these Greenland trips, and there was no internet, and the towns really didn't have internet, and you take your cell phone, you put it in a drawer for 5 months, and then pull it out later.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
I mean, you turn your service off. Sometimes you get a new number when you come back because your service
I
been
still
off too
do
long.
that on Sparrow.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Phone
OG.
goes away. Although, I mean, I have the iPad because it's got a lot of music and podcasts on it.
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah.
So
well,
I still get a little
music is good.
screen
Books are
time.
good and all
but-
that.
Speaking of turnaround, because I know you're zooming off here soon. I got off of that boat going through the Bermuda Triangle, all that stuff, 16 days. Hopped on Sparrow the next day, turned it around in 24 hours, and sailed from Fort Pierce up to Cape Fear. And it was great, dude.
Your boat is in Florida?
Uh-huh. Yeah. I stashed it down there while I was doing all these other jobs. And
where'd you go
stuff. Up to Cape Fear.
Oh, okay.
But
so
I
you
hit
like
my-
Beaufort area now? Is that?
South. It's the next little point. It's where the frying pan shoals are and all that sort of stuff. But
Right.
cool little, awesome little marina. And this guy, Ben, shout out to Ben, who sort of hooked everything up and stuff. Super cool guy. And
Yeah, that's a nice Fort Pierce. You know, that's where
Fort Pierce was awesome.
That's
Yeah,
where
yeah.
I failed my first single-handed passage.
Oh, really?
Coming out of Fort Pierce. Yeah.
Would you come out of the inlet when it was real rough or something?
Yeah, well, I did a lot of mistakes.
Dude, it's brutal.
It was
that
it
inlet.
was on the 323 Pearson, man. Pearson 323, Pearson 323. Yeah, I was trying to do my first single-handed passage. I was trying
You're
to get
gonna
up.
think of that every time you say
I
it
will
now.
forget this. I had no memory. I don't even know who you are until a few minutes ago. All right.
Whatever, Skip. I am unforgettable. Oh,
Yeah, I went out of
dude.
Fort Pierce, and it was a bit rough, but whatever. And I went out, and it was blowing a lot harder than I thought it would.
Yeah,
And I got out there far enough to get in the Gulf Stream.
which is like
And-
10 miles out.
Yeah, and it was blowing out of the north, and I didn't quite understand the Gulf Stream very well.
Yeah.
And so it got real bad. It took me like an hour and a half just to get the mainsail up. And
jeez.
finally, like, the crazy thing is finally I get the mainsail up, I get the jib going. I had a monitor wind vane, but I wasn't that good at it. But I crossed the Gulf of Mexico with it, so I was kind of okay, but I was still learning. And I finally got the boat going, right?
Yeah.
Sails, reefed, everything's right, wind vane going, and I got seasick the only time of my life, one and only time. And I puked all over my monitor wind vane.
Oh, I think I've heard that story. Yeah.
But I had these 2 giant glass jars of spaghetti sauce, giant ones that I bought because I like provisioned the boat for this trip, like way too much. And the boat got knocked around so bad that they flew across the inside of the cabin and smashed everywhere. 2 gallons of spaghetti sauce all over the place.
Glass.
And so I go down after puking, right? Like I'm not even going down inside the boat. I'm just out there puking on the wind vane, curled up in a ball, puking on the wind vane, curled up in a ball in
What
the
have I
cockpit.
done?
No Dodger, no Bimini, taking waves over the face, you know, all that
No
dumb
Dodger.
shit. Yeah, no
Get
Dodger.
you guys.
no
Shout out
Bimini.
to Trout the Landfish. No Dodger.
I had no Dodger on the whole Europe, Africa, Caribbean trip.
Why not?
I had no Dodger going around the Americas.
Because it's cool or something?
I had a Dodger for a little bit, but it fell apart. No, because I don't know. I used to just take, because I used to be a real man.
Oh.
Now I'm just a bitch who hides in a pilot house.
Yeah, you got
I
a
got-
pilot house.
I know. Yeah.
Weird.
I didn't used to be that way.
That's all the rave now. You see it on videos.
And then I
Everybody
opened
wants
that
a hard
hatch.
Dodger.
I saw that. It looked like a murder scene. That pasta sauce was just all over
Oh,
the
I'll
inside of the
bet,
boat.
dude.
And I closed that hatch, glass everywhere. And I fucking turned the boat around, went right back into Fort Pierce. And now the tide had changed.
Yeah.
And so
So
now
now
the
you got
tide
your
was
ass
coming
bit.
out, and the wind and the waves were coming in.
Yeah.
And there's all those people out there fishing on the rocks, you know. And I was damn near putting a mass in the water. I was still getting knocked so bad. And they were all waiting for me to flip. You know, they're all
Yeah,
giving them
yeah.
a show. You know, they're all pointing fingers. And,
Oh, God. Well, at least the Coast Guard station's right there.
I made it in all right. I made it in.
It's a tricky one. Because I think it's, from like Canaveral all the way down to West Palm, there's only 2 or 3 inlets really that are navigable by boats. And so at Fort Pierce, it's common for that thing to be 3.5, 4 knots of ebb or flood.
right,
And
it's
if
ridiculous.
if you catch it wrong, like Sparrow and I, when we left, we caught it and it was still coming in because there was the wind was out of the east, and like I wanted it that way. I didn't want the waves, and I figured we could handle the ingress of water, but I'm just looking at, and I was like, man, come on, engine, keep going. It got to
Right.
like end of the jetty, and I was like, one more channel marker, come on, and we made it, and I was like, yes, and then peeled off, but long story short, I hit my new record, 224 miles in 24 hours.
On a West Sail?
Yep. Well, the Gulf Stream helped a lot.
I would imagine.
I went straight for it and just rode it the whole way, even arced with it for a little bit.
What did you
until I
have, like
peeled out.
100 knots behind you? How the hell did that happen?
No, Mr. Sarcasm. Welcome back to the show. No, I had I powered up. We were running jib staysail main, pretty powered up on pretty much a beam reach and
224. So yeah,
we were averaging
nine
like
and a half.
9.5. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was seeing up to 11.
Yeah, the
but
Gulf Stream could do that.
here was the weird thing, though, is as I got up to where it was turning the corner, there were all these counter rips, and it was tame. The winds had died off, maybe blowing 10 to 12, but every once in a while, all of a sudden, the whole world's bouncing around like crazy for about 10 minutes, and then boom, back to flat and normal. And I was in the middle of the flood, the middle of the stream, and usually it's pretty consistent. I was pretty shocked to see these rips, and it just gave me a little eye-opener moment of like, God, if it was bloom 35, this would be not
What
good.
was it? What was it doing? Something out of the
It
south,
just-
I assume.
The wind was basically southwest. Was it southwest? It was either southeast or southwest. I can't remember.
Southwest is pretty dominant.
Why don't we look in our
Oh,
logbook?
Jesus,
How
your
convenient.
logbook.
See,
Yeah.
look at this. Oh, not just for writing books.
Yeah, scroll past your poetry and
Yeah, right. Let's see.
Written in your own blood.
Yeah, southeast, southeast.
we have okay. What's the wind speed?
Force 4
Okay.
for most of it, and then down to force 2. But once
Well, you
know,
were
if it
screaming. I mean, that's that.
drops down force 2, I throw the old drifter up. Like a
Well, that
rocket
must have
ship.
been like 160 miles without the Gulf Stream or something.
Easily, yeah. My record on the big trip was 168, and that was without any current.
Well, my record going around the Americas, 168
Was it?
with current.
With current.
The Guyana Stream, north of
Oh,
South America,
yeah,
between the,
yeah.
north of Guyana and French Guiana. Yep, I rode that bitch.
Nice.
Got 168.
It feels good to hook into. I hooked into a countercurrent for the Agulhas current getting into the Indian Ocean. My younger brother Adam killed it on that one, and he put me right into it. And because that place scared the shit out of me, man. I did not want to be south
Yeah,
of
the Agulhas.
South Africa.
Right. I hear you got to get quite a distance from it.
Yeah, I went down to like 42 degrees
Because isn't
south.
it like 34 or something?
Yeah, I think
It's
Cape Town lies at
subtropical,
like
basically.
34, 35, and
Yeah,
the current is right there. But it's like,
But
it
you don't
is-
think about it like
it looks
that.
exactly like the Gulf
Because
Stream.
Cape Horn is like 56 or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Cape of Good Hope is like 34. I mean, the difference is massive.
Massive.
Yeah.
But it's that current and the fact that those, because all the lows are spinning the other way, the top edge of that low, it's blowing hard from the west. And when it blows from the southwest and it hits the current, that's where cruise ships, tankers, everybody, that's why they're all mad about the Suez Canal and piracy. Nobody wants to, even those container ships don't want to go down there.
It's only 34. I mean, it's not that far. It's like
that
going
current,
to, it's like
though.
going to the Carolinas.
You get a nice
What is 35? Is that-
stiff Southern Ocean
Isn't
low.
Charleston like 34 roughly? Or Bermuda? Bermuda's something around 34.
I think Bermuda's like right at like 30, isn't it?
No, it's north of it a little bit.
North of it. 32 maybe?
Maybe
32,
32,
33.
yeah.
I don't know.
But I mean, think about Bermuda being 32. Think about the opposite end of the equator being 34. I mean, that's
Right.
It
No,
doesn't.
true.
It's subtropical. You just don't think of it that way. But yeah, no, currents are dangerous. Look, currents are
Super
always
dangerous,
dangerous.
dude.
Yeah, they're
Super
always. And the
dangerous.
Gulf Stream is no joke, and it's generally not your friend. And there are times you can ride it. I've had some good little. I was in the Gulf Stream coming around Hatteras and like 35 knots on a Tiana 48 delivery.
Yeah.
And it was blowing the exact same direction as the Gulf Stream, and it was like ripples.
Yeah.
Because it does the opposite. It tames it out
Yeah,
big
yeah.
time. I mean, you're barely, and with the Gulf Stream flowing, I mean, we were just, I don't know how fast, 15 knots. I don't know what the hell. I don't remember what we were doing, but we were fucking flying and like not
feels
flat
good.
calm, but little ripples and 35 knots. It was amazing,
right.
you know?
It is. The sea can do that for you. Sometimes it just gives you the best gift in the world, and then other times
It's usually not worth trying that, honestly.
No,
like I had been through the
I
Gulf
don't
Stream
like
a bunch of
towing with
times.
it, yeah.
I the Gulf Stream is a rough place.
it's
and
a caution. I just treat it with utmost respect, caution. I always try and have an evacuation plan pretty quick to get the hell out of it if things start going.
So it must have taken you like, what, a few days to get from
Took like 2.5 days.
Two
to
and
get
a
up
half
there.
days,
Yeah, it was
geez.
awesome. And that's like a 400-mile trip.
Yeah, no. Well,
And I got
220.
becalmed and was literally like the last night I was just drifting out there, like maybe 50 miles off of Cape Fear, and then kind of was working on my ETA with the tide going there, and I was like, oh shoot. So I
That
had
was
to
probably
motor.
nice, though. Were
Yeah.
you bothered by it, or were you just relaxing?
I didn't want to have to motor for 6 hours or 8 hours to get to Cape Fear. I would have much rather gotten in there under sail. But it's a high traffic area. I don't want to just be drifting out there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I watched a movie on the mainsail. It was sweet. I loved it.
Oh, yeah?
It was really nice to go from being on a west sail with another person, which was awesome. Shout out to Mark. It was fantastic. But like then to be able to hop on Sparrow and just by myself and crack and brews and just
You're
have
watching
a
movies
ball.
on your mainsail?
Yeah. I've only been able to do it a handful of times.
That's
but I
some luxurious shit.
tiny projector.
Single-handed watching movies
Captain
on your...
Ron, Joe versus Volcano, and I've got the perfect storm. But I've got to get Jaws. That would be so fun to watch.
Jaws would be good.
But if it's perfect out, super light, totally flat, calm, but the mainsail stays full, and I have a little projector I put on a GoPro clip, and it's tiny, but by the time it hits the mainsail, it's like an 8-foot screen, and you got the stars out, the moon. You're watching a movie, a little popcorn.
Yeah,
It's great.
that's
dude.
some
Yeah.
serious shit there.
Well, dude, but like I said, I've only been able to do it like 6 times in my life, and I've sailed that boat, I don't know, 100,000 miles or something.
yeah, but it's worth
It's
it.
rare, super rare.
It's
But
still
I
worth
need a
it.
new projector because this last time I dropped it and it's done.
Oh, yeah.
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 So.
Well, you get a little bit... Yeah, well, whatever.
Who
They're going
knows?
down.
Who
There's a lot cheaper.
Oh,
ones you can buy.
they're next to
with
nothing
tariffs,
now.
they're probably a little more expensive.
Yeah,
I
better
looked at some
get it
batteries
now.
today.
What kind of batteries? Lithium?
Well, they were
boat
lifelines. Yeah, I need to replace my bow thruster bank.
Oh,
I don't.
okay.
I don't have to do it before this year's expedition, but I know my Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Hey, I shout out to Scott. We didn't have a bow
Well, the point
thruster,
is,
and we
Jerome,
backed it. Sorry.
that
I'm doing a lot of shout outs.
Yes,
People
yes.
like hearing, their call outs, man. You got to do it more often. Here, let me, real quick.
I have the single-handed podcast.
Yeah, I know.
I'm
But
alone.
here's
I don't talk
here's
to
a
people.
little, just think of this. You could be
I
like,
talk
well,
to myself alone.
for
in
all my
rooms.
wonderful listeners out there, if you're looking to broaden your sailing podcast horizons, I highly recommend the Sailing into Oblivion podcast by Jerome Rand.
Yeah, they wouldn't believe me.
They would. I'll tell you what. If I'll do
I'll
shout
say
outs
your
for
thing.
the
Then
bird.
I say Oblivion or something.
Most times
Last
you're
time,
like,
then I
sail Oblivion.
Sail
Something,
Oblivion.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, I got
So
most
funny.
of it out there.
That was back in like episode 1 of the Rutherford files.
yeah,
That was
yeah. Well,
classic.
sail Oblivion.
Yeah, there
Sail
we go.
Oblivious.
Yeah, what,
Sailing
there's no
Oblivious.
A on the end.
Sailing Oblivious. Check out Sailing Oblivious with Jerome Rand.
I absolutely love it. Sorry, I interrupted you. So
I don't know. I wasn't saying anything important,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
right.
But yeah, so
Yeah.
hopefully get a big single-handed trip. But we got this. In the meantime, we got to go up to the Arctic in a couple of weeks. And,
Kill it. Yeah.
And I'll be back in October. So yeah, we'll leave in mid-May, be back in October. And
you still have berths available. So
yeah, I do. I still got berths
visit
available.
the website.
Oh
if
yeah,
you're
is this my
inquiring
shout out?
about it.
Is this you doing
Well,
that?
I'll put links in the description on my
You're supposed
podcast.
to get the berth. Here's my Jerome Rand.
Oh,
you're supposed to get the berth.
I will sell those berths, baby. You got as much cowboy coffee as
get
you
that.
want. You'll be picking grounds out of your teeth for weeks. Sign up now.
Yeah, sure.
But you have those. You're going to get up there, and they're throughout. Those berths are available.
Well, it's just we can't
Some
sell
of
berths
them
when
are.
we're doing research because it just doesn't work.
Right.
So once we get there, it just can't happen. But the 2,500 miles sailing there and the 2,500 miles sailing back, there's four legs. So
okay.
So
okay.
basically, halfway between the Chesapeake Bay and the capital of Greenland, Nuuk, Greenland, is St. John's, Newfoundland.
And you stop there.
I stopped there, so those two legs are about the same, within like 100 miles of each other. They're 1,300 mile passages.
yeah.
So yeah,
Oh, okay. That'd be cool.
yeah, it's $5,000, and you get it's whatever, roughly 1,250 mile passage, give or take 50 miles.
You get a lumpy pillow and a
Get a lumpy
scratchy
pillow.
blanket.
Some hardtack.
No, in all
Cold
actuality,
saltwater
you get
showers.
one hell of a unique experience.
Yeah, my
on one heck
blankets
of a
are quite
boat.
nice, thank you, sir.
I don't believe you issued one to me.
Oh, I definitely gave you something.
And I do
gave you like a
remember,
sack.
I remember you reaching out being like, hey, if you want to come on the trip to the Greenland, I fixed that hatch that leaks above your bunk.
I did. I replaced it. I didn't just fix it. I completely replaced it, although I heard it leaks still.
That first night when we were in the Chesapeake and I'm down there sleeping and all of a sudden just whoosh. I was like, what did I sign up for? No, it was great.
You took the lower bunk.
I only,
After that. From there
Oh,
on
we
out.
definitely did.
From there on out, you
For
had,
sure, man.
you
God.
had protection.
But we won't talk about the goings on in Constantine and my bunk up
Well,
there.
I
It's
replaced
great.
that hatch, and that's not where paying people sleep. They sleep in the back, where I sleep, except not in my cabin. The other cabin in the back.
The other cabin, yes, that
yes.
one. That one definitely seems.
They don't
be
get
the
to
nice
they
one.
don't get to get air as we're beating into the waves.
Yeah,
They don't elevate.
Remember that
off their
night I
bunk.
came out? I'm like, "Gee, Skip, we're kind of pushing, aren't we?"
Yeah, you weren't happy
You're
about
like,
that.
"Yeah, well, because we have to go over there." Well, what time do we have to be there? Yeah, tomorrow morning. I'm like, "Well, no, it was good. It's a lot of fun, man. I look kind. Hey, and if somehow I get some time this summer and I can swing it, I would love to be able to fly up there and at least meet for like a week. It'd be sick.
Try come for a couple weeks if you can, because the flights are expensive and it's a pain in the ass to get back and forth. So you can now get a direct flight starting in mid-June from Newark, New Jersey to Nuke.
Okay.
It's not cheap, but
then
it's
how do you
not-
get out to the boat? Yeah, helicopter
Well,
or
just
something?
I don't know, walk on water.
All right. So here's my shout out to the listeners. If you want to see a continuation of the Rutherford Files, Greenland edition this summer, send your money to me to buy a plane ticket to get up there.
It depends
and
on where we're at, and it can be difficult to get to wherever.
Right,
Nuke,
right.
obviously, but if you want to get to Upernavik or
Then it
Connaught,
gets
God
tricky,
forbid,
yeah.
or Pami, it's easier, but Asiat's not bad. So
Well, who
there's
knows?
plenty of play.
Maybe
We'll pick you up
make
in the
something
Lula
happen,
set.
man.
I'll pick Nick up there once. We'll pick you up in the Lula set, and that's fine.
All right. Well, we'll definitely have to stay in touch because seriously, I would love to get up
There's a
there
lot
and
of
see
flights
those
there.
glaciers. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, come on down. It ain't that bad. And get once you raise $25,000 between now and 2027, so you can buy some crackers
I
and
know.
I don't know whatever.
Well, here's
Rock
let
gut
me
alcohol
throw
you buy.
another little suggestion out. Why don't you get sponsorship? I get sponsorship, and we just do the 2026 Golden Globe.
Because fuck the Golden Globe.
Why? Why not? Why not go and rip
And I don't
around
mean
the race?
I don't mean
Tim?
any disrespect to anybody who does it. I think that's
It's
all
fun.
great.
Hey, it's a good rip.
Motherfucking, they got so many rules in that shit. You got to stay between here and there. You got
The
to go in
only rule
these
you
places.
gotta
and
abide
throw-
by is win.
All right. What do you think? Just regardless of my opinion, what do
Yeah.
you think Bernard Montessier would think about the moderns? Since he was in the first Golden Globe,
Yeah.
What do you think Bernard
Begrudgingly.
Montessier? What do you think he
My
would
dad.
think about the modern rules and regulations? Within
Yeah,
the Golden
well,
Globe?
he-
do you think
he-
he would want anything to do with it?
He probably would not in the beginning, and then he would be like, he'd have a big mood swing and be like, you know what, though?
He was a little
It's
bit moody.
sailing. It's kind of
Well, what's
fun.
the
Let's
point?
do it.
I
To
don't-
win.
To win what? A trophy?
I don't know what you win. Is there a cash prize?
I don't think
We
so.
should get Don on the phone right now. I talked to Kirsten. I had her on the show.
Yeah, she was the one. She was the one who won it.
2022.
last time. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
badass. Look,
she's
like I
awesome.
said, I got no disrespect for anybody doing it. I'm not a fan of it myself because all the rules and shit. If I go out to sea,
I'm pretty
alone,
sure you'd abandon that race so
yeah.
quickly.
Well, nobody's gonna tell me what the fuck I can and can't do when I'm alone in the
Ooh,
ocean.
He's getting hot, folks.
Right? When you're alone
Wires
in
are
the ocean,
touching.
Why are you going out there just to have people tell you got to sail between here
Well,
and there
that's
and
it.
this and
It's
that, and you got to
it's
do
just
this or whatever?
It'd
Look,
be a total different idea. If a company came to you and said, "Listen, we'll give you the boat, we'll give you the sails, all
I don't
provision,"
fuck 'em.
you wouldn't do it.
hell no, I ain't doing it under any
But
circumstances.
if you get to keep the boat afterwards,
I mean, if they were,
folks, we've got an in.
if they would donated a research vessel to my nonprofit or
There
something
it is.
crazy like that, but that ain't
You
gonna happen. 'cause
heard
that's
it
millions
here.
of dollars. A multi-beam sonar. Give me a Krongsberg 712S. All right, it costs about $750,000 plus the installation, probably $1 million.
And the boat and
I don't care.
all the
I don't even need a boat. You just
sponsorship.
give me a Krongsberg 712S or 712R. I'll take either one of them.
I'll give you Mighty Sparrow to do
and
the
that
racing.
I can map down to 10,000 feet with that motherfucker.
There we go.
But that ain't gonna happen. But I what I don't know, because I didn't follow the Golden Globe that she was on.
Yeah.
I know in the first Golden Globe you're not supposed to get weather forecasts or this, that, and the other, but they were talking to people with the single sideband and getting weather forecasts, according to Gene Socrates, who is
Well, you could
following
still
along.
get it because in the original one they had the Marconi radios, so they could get some
Or is it-
information and stuff. Yeah, so you can.
I
get,
guess I haven't.
there's a
I
few
mean,
things.
look, it's for the own sake of saying it. I did not follow the last one at all, and I don't know what rules may or may
Right,
not have
right,
changed. I know that you,
They still
you
have
don't
to go
own
through
the,
gates, and they have to like. Stop
you don't own the
there and
rights to
everything.
your own footage. At least you don't on the first one. Like if you take a picture, you don't own the picture you take. The race owns the pictures. It seems
think-
really weird to me.
I'm pretty sure Don has kind of eased up on all that.
Because I know, because I was actually a backup captain for one of the boats in the first race. Actually, you want to hear the whole? I'll let my very quick whole history of me and the GGR, which is very brief.
So the
So
plot thickens, folks.
So the GGR was announced, right?
Yeah.
And like I talked to Andy Schell about it a couple of days later. And back then, this was before he had East Bjorn, that 48 footer, before he had any of those boats. Back when he had like was it an Island Princess or what the fuck is those boats called? There was like a Princess. There was I don't know. It was a 1960s era boat, right? That he had before that. It's something Princess.
yeah.
And I don't know if he had a Princess model. Anyways, it was a 1960s boat. He was the one he took on his first transatlantic, and he was just starting to start his like sail with me, selling berths things.
Yeah.
And so he's like, "Why don't you use my boat, Allied?" That's what it was. Allied Princess, Allied Sea Breeze, Allied something or other. It was one of the Allieds. Was his boat, and he offered me his boat for the GGR, and it was built in 1966. So it was of the right era. Like you literally could have taken that race was in '68, the first
Yeah.
one.
Oh,
you
you could've
literally
taken
could have
that
taken
boat,
it in the
right.
fucking race. And so I emailed Don, and this is like a week or two after the first announcement. It's like 2 years before that first race.
Yeah.
So this is years and years ago. And I'm like, I got this boat in 1966, da-da-da, could have been in the first one. Andy Schell's going to let me use it for this race, da-da-da-da-da. And he was like, no, you can't do it in the boat. And I was like, what do you mean? But it had a lifting keel or something. It didn't have the right underbody. He's like, you're just going to sail circles around everybody because it's so much faster underbody, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And which is totally fair enough, by the way. I wasn't really upset about it. And quite honestly, and look, I love Andy, but I think he probably would have reneged on it, to be honest with you. I think he would have, because he needed to sell that boat to help fund getting East Bjorn, his 48-footer.
Right.
So my guess is it was a momentary pipe dream between me and him where he offered something. It was really generous offer at the time, but I totally see like the situation where he came back later. It was like, oh shit, dude, I got to sell this thing to fund East Bjorn, this Swan 48 to start this business, this whole 59 North business, which fair enough. I would understand that too. So some other guy contacted me and was like, I want you to be the backup captain and try to use that to help me get whatever sponsorship to do the GGR.
Right.
And I was like, and this was again like a year and a half before the first GGR, and I'm like, dude, I have no clue what I'm going to be doing at that time. Like, because I'm doing a nonprofit, we're trying to get more serious. Like, but if you think it's going to help you raise some money or whatever, go for it. Go ahead. So he put me down as, promoting me as like, if something happens to me, this other guy's going to do it, who did this around the Americas to try to make people feel better about funding his thing.
Yeah.
And then he's trying to somehow selling his sweats or something weird like that. I don't remember. But anyways, he ended up emailing me and Don, I guess when he found out about this, you don't own the rights to your own pictures or in your own footage.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to use that as some way to, I don't know, earn back some of the money or something that would have cost to do it. I don't know what his strategy was. And then he bailed on the whole thing after that because him and Don got in some big argument about the rights, who owns the rights to the footage or whatever.
Right.
And I wasn't ever planning on actually being this backup captain. And I was
like,
just,
I'm walking away, guys.
well, I wasn't going to do it anyways. But, I was just like, if you can use my name to help you raise money, go for it. But I'm not guaranteeing that I'm actually going to be in a place where I can do this thing. So, and then it morphed and changed from there into more rules and more this and more that. And I have no idea what the last one was like as far as rules. So maybe it changed back. Maybe all I'm doing is remembering them early days of these arguments.
In the end, it's just a different event. It's obviously not our style. Like you, Randall, and I, that's not our cut. If racing was what we were about, we would have already done it.
Yeah,
for
I'm
sure.
not.
For sure.
It's so much to be a competitive racer on a high level. You have to eat, breathe, and shit racing. Like you have to make it your whole life.
Back and read books.
Yeah, I just don't have the time for it. Like I need to. Yeah, I mean, well,
today a cloud looked like Matthew.
Yeah, exactly. I saw 3 UFOs, man.
That's how I roll. No, I mean, I don't know. I just think it would be one of those things that'd be funny.
I should.
If some company was like, dude, we'll give you the full thing. You don't have to worry about it. Pick your boat. I'd probably be like,
yeah, I do. I think you'd do great in it. You do great in it, I'm sure. But I bet you if we had equal boats and we were sailing around the world nonstop single-handed, you'd probably smoke me.
You
probably
bro.
would smoke me.
Sailing is an art, not an industrial endeavor, sir.
But if we both got dismasted, then I might win.
Yeah, you got that sort of like mentality of like, oh,
and I never
spit
quit
and,
and all the rest.
I don't quit either.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess not.
I guess not. I'm still here.
I mean, just because
I've been working on our relationship forever.
Yeah, well,
and I don't give up. Nah, it's all a lot
You just
of fun.
want half my shit. That's all it is.
Anything and everything sailing. I love it. It's all super fun.
Well, I certainly hope the next GGR, I should look more into it because it might have changed quite a bit from the situation that I remember. Yeah. And maybe it's not
Don's got a million different races now, too.
I know, but I don't. Like I have zero interest. Well, and it's like you said, though. Like, I don't want to think about somebody in front of me or behind me or anywhere around me because it's more of a having a world of my own, to quote Knox Johnson's book, or a more Motissier-esque scenario where it's just about being out there and doing the expedition, doing the journey, becoming one with the ocean, essentially.
Yep.
And that's what matters. And the idea of other people who are involved now, oh, there's a boat behind me, oh, there's a boat in front of me, oh, I got to do this, oh, I got to do that. Like, it just kind of ruins it a little bit for me. Now, you might be like, oh, there's a storm in front of me. Oh, there's a storm behind me. Oh, I got to do this or that because of that, But, like, I just don't – and I don't know why this is, and I wish it wasn't this way. Like, I really wish I felt differently, but I don't care if you can sail faster than me. Like, I don't care if you can run faster than me or drive a car faster than me or fly an airplane faster than me or any of that stuff. So, and Annapolis is – big sailing town, but it's mostly like day racing. If you look at the real active community, it's people going, and almost every day of the week, people out there racing. And I think it's great. Yeah, and more power to them. And I think it's great they're doing it. They're getting out on the water. I wish I cared more about it because I wish I could be part of that community because I'm surrounded by one of the healthiest sailing/day racing communities in the entire country. And I have nothing to do with any of it, and I know absolutely none of them, even though I've been there forever. Yeah. Because I just for whatever weird reason, it just doesn't.
You shun them, they shun you.
I'm not trying to shun anybody, but I just don't care. I've been racing though. I've done it. I've done it a bunch of times, and I just never really care.
People, we race the seasons. Got to get to Cape Horn before the winter comes in. Yeah. Right. You had to do that. I had to do that.
I don't know. It's
all good. Hey, don't worry.
I mean, I guess like
do they have all riled up?
Do they have races on the Appalachian Trail?
Oh man! Well, somebody just set a new record for.
But I mean, like
30-something days or what? I don't know what it was.
But I mean, like having like let's say 50 people or 20 people starting at the bottom. You would think they would have done that by now, like an Appalachian Trail race. I mean, I can't be the first person who just randomly thought about that and have like 20 people start on the bottom and go to the top.
I feel like, I don't. I think it's always just going to be like there's the record that's set of like how fast assisted, how fast unassisted, how fast, there's a bunch of different ones. But in that world, it always gets shunned. Not shunned, but just ignored because people are like, this is not about speed records. And so people just go for it and do it, and they get a bit of a blip out of the community. Of be like, congratulations, and then it's like, Because it's all hike your own hike out there kind of thing. I don't know.
Right. Well, and that's
Which I think
the
is-
ocean and kind of sail your own sail too to
Yeah,
some
yeah,
extent.
exactly.
And look, I think competition's great. Different people have different competitive spirits. What people are doing out there is amazing. I love that.
Great for
I love
innovation.
that she won that race.
Well, here's
that's amazing.
What I loved about her
absolutely-
trip, honestly, was that she pulled Tapio out of his life raft after his boat sunk. That's so sick to be able to go out there, not only compete in the race and win it, but then to find another sailor in their life raft and then transfer him over to a container ship.
So, are you saying she wasn't single-handed the entire time? I'm just joking.
what a stickler!
I know. I'm just
But
joking.
no,
I'm
she was
just joking.
super cool. It's
No,
a
that's
really
all
fun
badass. That's all
conversation.
super badass, and yeah, I think it's great that she won, and absolutely, I'm all about more ladies sailing.
But hey, you know
Because
what? You're pretty cool too. All right.
Yeah.
So don't
I
let
ain't that
anybody
cool.
don't
I
let
ain't-
anybody throw shade on Matt.
Yeah.
Nobody puts Matt in the corner. All right. Well, hey, listen. I got to get out of here because it's 7 p.m. and I got a road trip. Indianapolis. Here I come.
Oh Jesus! You driving it from Maryland to Indianapolis today?
Nah, if I make it over the Appalachians,
that's
I'll be
like,
good.
Ugh, yeah,
It's
it's like 9
it's-
hours,
it's
10 hours.
10 or 11 hours, depending on traffic. I heard there might be some thunderstorms in my route.
Yeah, no.
If I can make
that's
it, if
probably
I can make it
true.
halfway, then I can get there midday tomorrow, see some family, all that sort of stuff. But
All right, man. Well, it's good to see you.
dude, great to see you
As-
too.
as
When do I
always.
get one of those shirts?
And next time you actually come on a boat and do some work for once, instead of just clean toilets and
I just put out the Murph's Electric. Murph is this epic, legendary oracle of a human being who lives in Rockland, Maine. But he's awesome, and he has power chords and stuff. Murph's Electric, and it's a picture of him on the back. Says the oracle has spoken. Those are available now.
those are available.
Check the links in the description.
on Sailing into Oblivion.
Yeah, if you're listening to this on
Sailing Oblivious.
on Single-Handed Sailing Podcast, you probably should flip the channel over to Sailing into Oblivion.
Sailing Oblivious.
No, whoa! Oh man, because you got way more listeners than me.
Oh God, I have no idea how many listeners.
Yeah,
I haven't looked in years.
We got great audiences. I hear from them all the time. They give you respect. They give me respect, and that's why we got to
you all
keep
for
doing it.
listening to our random bullshit that comes out of our mouths. But yes,
And I will commend you, and I'm sure I'm going to have to edit the next 10 seconds out, but you kept the language under you kept it throttled back
yeah,
today.
I'm
Appreciate
trying.
it.
I mean, I usually
You
do.
are a changed man.
I know. I'm growing. I'm evolving, man. I'm evolving. I don't know if I'm evolving. I might be going back.
Devolving.
Well, I mean, we came from the ocean.
it's
You
true.
see, I'm
It's
going
true.
back
You're
to the
turning into
ocean.
more of a plankton every day.
Yes, I'm a single cell amoeba at this point.
All right, Matt. Thanks for coming on, man.
All right, yep.